Good morning.
Morning, everybody. Oh, people are fired up this morning. Ambient, take it easy.
Breathe.
It's sports.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floormeister Studios. Floormeisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you on this hump day. Hope your week's gone well so far. Let's get over it together, shall we? How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Slept in my own bed last night, Mark. Didn't get as much sleep as I wanted. You know, getting back from LA, it ain't easy. Okay. Couldn't get the first flight available out of Atlanta. Had to wait 3 hours for the second one. So I got home a little later than I wanted. But, man, it was nice being in my own bed. Slept well. The power nap today is going to be spectacular. Oh, I'm fired up for it already.
Good for you. Glad you slept in your own bed. I did too. Wife didn't make me sleep on the couch. I mean, everything was wonderful in the Miller household last night.
Is that the over under 6.5? Is that you're hoping for an over every week, right?
It's an over every week. My problem is I fall asleep on the couch watching, whatever game last night. But no, last night I turned in early, caught up on after Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football late nights. Always try to get a good night's sleep on a Tuesday, which I did. And, ready for another day. As the playoff committee did their thing last night.
They did. Before
is the Big Ten good.
It's elite. At least the top part of it, it's elite.
Man, is it good.
Whew. It's outstanding. Fox, CBS, NBC, they must be thrilled with the product that they have. I don't know about the other 14 teams in the conference, but man, do they have 4 outstanding teams.
They sure do.
Listen, before we get to that, just curious, you joked the other day about when somebody was actually going to, begin the college basketball season in their mind. And that involves watching a game. When is that actually going to take place? Now, you and I are into college hoops. And we love the November scheduling in college hoops. I mean, big boys play each other. It's fun. I mean, if you want to get into it, you can get into it right away. Week 2 of the season is underway. Your Spartans had a high-profile game. Number 1 team in the country they played. Did you watch?
Watched every second of it.
Okay.
Watched every second of it. Watched the first half of Duke, Kentucky, and then went to bed. Wanted to see a little bit of Cooper Flagg and see what he was all about.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yes, as a matter of fact. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I went to bed because the second half, the offense kind of dissipated a little bit. The first half, both teams were going and scoring and dunking and shooting. And Kentucky Duke, it was a lot better than the rock fight that happened between Kansas and Michigan State in the first half of that game.
Which is funny, though, because the final score was only a 3-point difference.
I know. They got it going a little bit in the second half of Kansas, Michigan State. The first half was a rock fight.
Well, if you play an Izzo team, usually at some point it becomes a rock fight.
Yep, you're right.
So I was just wondering, if you checked it out. And
no, and I've got a lot of beefs right now. I'm not happy.
Well,
if the NIL is all going to basketball, how is that team unranked? And how come they can't make a 3-pointer? I'm already upset at my basketball team. I've watched one game. Lots of questions, David. Lots. I have to get answers today.
Okay. All right. Well, it's early.
I was going to play golf today. I've got an air conditioning issue in the house. I got a thermostat that busted last night. So it looks like golf's out while I wait for the air conditioning folks to show up whenever it is they show up and spend more money. But, I have questions that need to be answered today.
All right. Well, hopefully you get them answered. I mean, hopefully you can get a hold of the owner of the Phoenix Suns and say, hey, any of those billions going towards the basketball team? Huh?
Where are they? I just want to know where they're going. If they're spending all this money at the university, the football team's pathetic. And I like the coach and I like the quarterback, and I think they're going in the right direction, but they need money. It doesn't matter how good the coach is. It doesn't matter how good a certain player is. You need
Right.
$7 million to build a team minimum. So where's the money going? Because the basketball team's not ranked either. All right, I'm done.
Okay, fair enough. I think, Mark, the key, as we saw last night with the College Football Playoff Committee and their rankings, is you need more transfers from James Madison. That's I'll be curious how much of that goes on in the future. And I'm serious, not necessarily that the coach brings the players, but that even a coach takes a look at an FCS school and says, yeah, I'll take all 6 of you. I'm just curious, all right, whether or not with Indiana's success this year, with 13 guys from James Madison, 10 of whom start. I mean, think about that. Almost half their starters were playing football for James Madison last year. All right. And now, how many, although I guess James Madison has made the jump up to FBS. All right. So just curious, how many coaches will do something like that? Just a smaller school and a bunch of kids want to, enter the transfer portal and go big time. How many coaches going forward will say, well, hell, I'll take all 6 of you. We'll see. But all right, week 2 of the playoff committee. What do you think?
I'm a little
that doesn't
surprised.
sound good. That doesn't sound good.
I was a little surprised to see that Ole Miss was ahead of Georgia. I'm impressed they did it because of their win. I laugh at some of the things the committee says because they're so certain on certain, who's the best 2 losses? Alabama. Well, they lost to Vanderbilt. You could poke holes in every part of it. How's Indiana ranked behind Penn State? What's Penn State's signature win this year? When you do comparative schedules, Indiana's beaten some teams much more emphatically and badly than Penn State has. So I'm starting to think like Bud, that this is just a made-for-TV, how to fill a few minutes, and it means nothing until we get to December.
Well, we've never liked their explanations because they're all over the map. There's no consistency to them. So I just try to go by their vote, that this is who they rank. And for what it's worth, if the playoffs started today, Georgia would be out, which is interesting because they've got 2 really good wins at Texas and Clemson, don't forget, on a neutral field. And that was a butt whooping in the second half. I mean, they've got 2 tremendous wins. Now, they've lost Alabama and they've lost Ole Miss, both on the road, by the way. I mean, think about their schedule this year. Alabama on the road, Ole Miss on the road, Texas on the road, Clemson, although it was in Atlanta, but technically a neutral field. That's a schedule. For as soft as Georgia's schedule was last year, man, did they make up for it this year. However, it's set up. If Georgia beats Tennessee, they're going to be in, as long as they don't lose to Georgia Tech.
Which is not a certainty.
No.
Georgia Tech can play a little football. They've got the dual quarterback thing going on right now.
Yeah.
And seem to have a little bit of a team. And nothing would make Georgia Tech happier.
Oh, my goodness.
Knocking Georgia out of the playoff.
Oh, what a successful year that would be. Beat Florida State, Miami, and Georgia? My goodness. That'd be a hell of a 8-win season, I think it'd be, for Georgia Tech. But people are starting to pay attention, though, Mark. We pointed it out earlier. Some folks pointing out overnight, name the quality win for Texas, name the quality win for Penn State, name the quality win for Indiana. I mean, you could argue BYU has more quality wins. Thank you very much. Than Texas, Penn State, and Indiana. Maybe
they might have more quality wins than those 3 teams combined.
Right. So, once again, though, I mean, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. The committee has always favored the smaller number in the right-hand column. Always. Always. But it is interesting BYU ranked behind Indiana. I mean, I could argue BYU's played a better schedule than Indiana. And I don't see how I could lose that argument.
But their inconsistencies, Tennessee is a bad loss. There's no doubt. But they also have a signature win beating Alabama. Where's Penn State's signature win?
Right.
When you're comparing one-loss teams.
Right. Penn State's 8-1, Tennessee's 8-1. Now, we all know Penn State's loss, pretty damn good. Losing the number 2 team in the country by a score at home. And Tennessee, they got whooped at Arkansas. Now, will this all play itself out? Probably. But it's already a little dicey because the other factor at work here is seeding. That means home games. And right now, while a bunch of SEC teams are going to be in the playoff, they ain't going to be at home. The South is going to have to go north if these seedings stay what they are.
And most of us want to see that.
Oh, it'd be phenomenal television. And for all the times that those January 1st games, the northern teams had to go play the southern teams in the state of Florida, in Tampa and Orlando and Jacksonville in bowl games. And the fans of the northern teams would be like, man, are we ever going to get them, on our terms? No, not in a bowl game, but you can in the playoff. And right now, that's what you get. I mean, listen, I'm not bringing this up because I don't think Alabama is going to be intimidated. But right now, Alabama would go to Indiana in a first-round playoff game. How cool would that be?
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.com.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
When you enter the Diamond District, you will quickly discover what makes Jason and Todd so unique to Southwest Florida. Within the walls of the Diamond District, you'll find many of America's top jewelry designers who have chosen the Diamond District as their authorized representative in Southwest Florida. Takori, Fana, A. Jaffe, Veragio, Christopher Designs, Shy Creations, Henri Darcy, all names synonymous with excellence, and all proudly showcased at the Diamond District. This is Miller and Moulton.
see I'm getting air conditioning advice from the Twitch chat room. That's so sweet of them.
It is.
It's really nice. Unless they're going to come over and do it for me, I'll be calling the air conditioning company. I changed the batteries in the thermostat, and that didn't work. So I believe it's the thermostat.
And, Fat Neck Marley and anybody else. I mean, that's the equivalent of us turning it off and turning it on right there. We can't do it. We can't do any better. That's why there are paid professionals.
I mean, I can check the drain line. That is true.
Miller and Moulton are big fans of contributing to local economies.
And I wish I could do it myself, but I will break something and it will cost more money.
So how's everybody doing? How's your week going?
So this weird thing's happened. Now that there's no Frank in the house, I get up and I take Frank out. That was my first thing I did every morning.
Right.
Shut the alarm off, take Frank outside. Do you know how many times I've walked out the door in the morning without shutting the alarm off because there's no Frank?
Oh.
It's just because then I leave 40 minutes later or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And I'm just walking out the door. Did it this morning. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to turn the alarm off.
I was wondering how many times you just got up and went for a walk.
No, none of those.
Okay.
Thanks, Spitz. Appreciate it.
Didn't know if you just needed 5 minutes to yourself. Check out the neighborhood and the surroundings.
No, I do feel like I am the handler at a rock concert, though. I'm not the act. But since I use the phone and keep the lights off to not wake my wife off, and I'm using the ambient light from the phone, I start by turning the water on for my French press, and then I work my way to the bathroom to brush my teeth. That I do turn the light on for. But walking around the house in the dark, just with a little bit of light
right
at feet, trying to figure out where I'm going.
Sonny, is that when Arkansas comes to town?
It was funny watching that Michigan State-Kansas game. There weren't a lot of fans there because they were all Kentucky fans that bought tickets.
No, officiating did not come up yesterday. It was a nice win for Mark Pope in Kentucky. Yep. It's funny you say that. I put my shirt on after my nap Monday to go work the game, and it's a good thing I went in the bathroom because my shirt was on inside out. And I went, I love this.
Oh, then you get to do it twice, which got to be a lot of fun for you.
It's a lot better. It's a lot better.
No, EB, they cannot. EB, I called your person you gave me the name of yesterday. She did not call back, but I did try to contact her.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
At 21 minutes past the hour, thanks so much for being with us. It is a hump day. Let's get over it together, shall we? Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Coming at you from the Floormeister Studios. Floormeisters in Naples. Just keeping it real. So there were a couple of very interesting off-the-field stories yesterday. And we probably focus more off the field with actual content, not gossip, not, hey, who do you think's going to be fired? They'll be fired eventually. We'll get to it. But so the Rays and the Trop, this story is starting to get very interesting. We touched upon it with David Sampson yesterday. If you missed it, download it on our podcast, the top of hour 2 yesterday. So sure enough, after touching upon it with David Sampson, a few hours later, the news comes out that $55.7 million, that's what it's going to cost to repair the Trop to get it ready for the 2026 season. They're definitely not playing there this year, the Rays. They got to find a home for 2025. And it's going to cost the city of St. Petersburg nearly $56 million. Now, I have to admit, quick sidebar, wouldn't that be covered by insurance? No? I mean, in theory, how much, what's the deductible? I'm not trying to be a flippant blankety blank here. In all seriousness, isn't that like if we had damage to our home? Isn't that the same insurance policy here?
And fortunately, David, I've not had to deal with this, with damage to my home from any storms. But yes, my understanding is that this was insurance money that was paying for the Trop.
Right. So, the bill's apparently $55.7 million. I'd like to think they're not on the hook for all of that, right? There's a deductible involved. Now, those of us who have had to make an insurance claim in the state of Florida or elsewhere for that matter, for storms, floods, etc. Do you get the full $56 million from the insurance company? Hell no. Then the fight is how much of that 55.7 are you actually going to get? But anyway, just for the sake of argument, the city of St. Petersburg's got to come up with $56 million. Well, there's a few people on the St. Pete City Council who have no interest in coming up with 56,000, 560,000, 5.6 million, never mind 56 million. Because they just allocated $6.5 million to clean the place up. And when they did it, there were a few of the people who voted for it that said, yeah, this is the last money I'm going to allocate.
And by the way, the deductible's $22 million.
Okay. So, if I'm on the St. Pete City Council, I'm like, well, then shouldn't it cost us $22 million? And shouldn't the insurance company be on the hook for the other 34? But I digress. So this is interesting, though. If the St. Pete City Council does not want to spend the money, and they're meeting next week, when's the 21st? A week from tomorrow?
Yes.
I think it is.
Yeah, today.
So they're meeting a week from tomorrow. Mark, if you're the owner of the Rays and the St. Pete City Council doesn't want to spend the money to repair the Trop, I know you don't want to. Don't you have to pay it?
Unless you're going to try to play in minor league ballparks for 3 years.
Or move the damn team.
Because not only are they not wanting to pay the money to redo the Trop, David, we talked about this yesterday. There are 2 new council members that are against the stadium project completely.
Right, and the vote to approve the stadium project was 5-3-4. So now it's 5-3 against. Now, this is an interesting ethical dilemma that we could discuss. I mean, this would make for a great college course, to be honest with you. That if you're replacing the politicians and the will of the people before you got the job was to go forward with this project, and now because of a natural disaster, the project is slightly delayed, is it unethical of you to kill the project? I mean, the project was approved before you got the job. And the project now is only being held up because of a major hurricane. I mean, you could make the argument to the person and go, I know you're against it, but I mean, come on, this sucker was already approved.
Well, one thing that you said, the will of the people. I'm not sure the people were for this in the beginning. Because if it was put to a public vote, I don't know if it would have passed, David.
Oh, it would have been interesting. It would have been. I mean, the funny thing is the Rays are a minor part of what was passed. I mean, they really are. They're like 15% of the funding as to what was passed. I mean, this is a major, $6 billion, something like that, renovation of a neighborhood and everything that they're building. I mean, it's known as the Rays Stadium project, but believe me, that's not the majority of the money. But back to Sternberg. You own the team, and let's just say events and politics combine to now you got 34 to 56 million that you got to come up with. If they say, not another dime, we'll clean it up, but we're not spending any money on a place that we're knocking down. In fact, we don't even know if we're building you a new home. Mark, would you, if you're Sternberg, dip into your pockets and pay the money? Because I got to have a major league stadium to play in 26 and 27.
Well, David, I would if they're going to pass the project. If they're not going to pass the project, I'm moving the team.
Okay, and that's fair.
I'm moving the team.
And I think that's fair, by the way. I think that's fair if you said that. If you look right at them and say, listen, tell you what, I get it. I do. I don't agree with it. Okay, I'm going to remember it forever, but you know what? I'll pay it.
The irony is the city reduced the coverage from 100 million to 25 million in March so they could save $275,000 in payments. So this would have all been taken care of if they would have kept the same policy that they had.
Right. But they saved $300,000.
To lose 22 million in a deductible.
Now, listen, Sternberg hasn't wanted to dip into his pocket for anything, and certainly not players. But he's in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. Right. We all believe that.
Right.
But I don't know, Mark, what choice he may have. I mean, seriously, he's got to be in a major league ballpark in 2026. Has to. And Major League Baseball has said, we're not interested in you being in a major league ballpark anywhere except where you play. Mark, I'd be fine if you did that as Sternberg. If you said, listen, I'll pay it. I'll be a nice guy. I'll pay it. But you got to pass the project. Not a dime until you pass it. And if you don't pass it, the team's gone.
And you wonder with the change in votes in St. Pete if the team would be gone. Miller and Moulton. The starting five is next.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever, are steadily adding affiliates, yet we only have a few sponsors. And if that doesn't change, we can't continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or contact Mark on X at that Mark Miller or me at the David Moulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now. The world famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world famous cigar bar.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
Is snoring bothering your spouse? Would you like to sleep in the same bed again? Do you know that snoring can affect your sleep cycle and cause lower testosterone levels? At Sleep Treatment Direct, we have easy solutions. We have a simple laser procedure that can improve snoring in 10 minutes. If you would like to get back in the same bed or are looking for a natural way to treat low testosterone, give us a call at 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Or go to sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Would be wild if Milton's the reason that they move. You know?
Yeah. What's Manfred supposed to do, Barstool? What do you think he has the power to do in this situation, or you want him to do? I'm just asking, because I don't know. To me, now I think he could have put his thumb down in Oakland. I think he could have said to the owner, "Hey, we want the team to stay. We're not going to approve you moving. Make a deal."
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes before the top of the hour. It's a hump day. Let's get over it together. We do it with Seth Everett, Bud Elliott, Chris Perkins as our guests coming up a little bit later on Miller and Moulton. A lot went on yesterday in the sport.
A lot did go on. You've got a lot to get to. It was a busy night.
Yeah. Now, I may have missed one or two things. That's why I've got a backup. It's Mark Miller, but I'll give it my best shot. Time now for
Starting Five. 5 big stories you need to know. Here is the Starting Five.
Well, we'll start with college football and the playoff committee. They released their top 25, and then from that, you have to figure out, well, okay, if they're ranked here, what would their seeding be? Because the top 4 teams in the country are Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State. Well, that's 3 Big Ten teams. Then with Indiana at 5, that's 4 Big Ten teams. And obviously, only one's going to be a top 4 seed and get a bye. But it would mean right now that Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana would host first-round playoff games. Yeah, a lot of Big Ten home games is what the first round would look like right now. BYU, for what it's worth, is seeded 6th, or actually they're ranked 6th, so they're seeded 3rd as the 3rd highest ranked conference champion. Miami fell all the way to 9th, but they're still ahead of SMU, which is 14th. So Miami, right now, for argument's sake, would get the 4 seed and the first round bye because Boise is ranked 13th. They're the highest group of 5 team that is ranked. And in fact, they have a huge advantage over Washington State and Army, who are both ranked in the 20s.
Well, in Washington State, they can't get in unless it's an at-large because they're not in a conference that plays they don't have a conference champion. So they have to get in as an at-large, is my understanding.
So they can't be the group of 5 representative?
They're not a conference champion.
Because there's not a conference champion. There you go. By the way, Colorado's 17th. Thought people would find that interesting. To us, what's interesting is last week they were 7, 8 spots behind Boise?
Right. They were 20 last week.
Right. Now they're 4 spots behind Boise State.
And BYU is where they are. So if they beat them, in theory, they could move them up substantially.
That Colorado, in theory, if they keep on keeping on and beat BYU in the Big 12 title game, it looks as if the committee is greasing the skids to make sure that the Big 12 champion is ranked ahead of the Mountain West champion.
Totally. That was probably my number 2 take of last night, is that Boise is locked in as the 12. That's just the way it is for the group of 5 team. That's how they're going to figure this out, David.
Tennessee is ranked 7th. They'd be seeded 8th. They would host Notre Dame in a first-round playoff game right now. Notre Dame ranked 8th, but would be seeded 9th. Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia, ranked 10th, 11th, 12th. Because of the group of 5 representative, Georgia is actually out of the playoffs this morning. But we all know Georgia's playing Tennessee on Saturday. And if they win, does anybody think Georgia will not be in the playoff if they win out? With wins over Texas, Tennessee, and Clemson. No, Georgia would make the playoff at 10-2. Don't know if they'd make the SEC title game, but Georgia pretty much knows, A, Saturday's a playoff game, and B, if we win out, we'll be in the playoffs. But Ole Miss is in for the moment. Ole Miss, last at large, as of right now. Your first round playoff games, as of right now, Boise State would go to Ohio State. Ole Miss would go to Penn State. Alabama would go to Indiana. And Notre Dame would go to Tennessee. There you have it. Let me ask you this, Mark. Do you believe that the ACC champion will be ranked ahead of the Big 12 champion if the Big 12 champion is not an undefeated BYU?
Yes.
Which means that the ACC champion would be a 3 seed.
I believe that'll be the case. Would be interesting if Colorado and SMU both went out. How they figure those two out. That would be the most interesting to me to see how they would seed those two teams. But if Miami wins out and Colorado were to win out, Miami will be seated higher.
There was college football last night. Why? Because if you need a distraction, there's Maction. A wild one. Buffalo in overtime over Ball State, 51-48. Bowling Green's in first in the MAC by a half a game right now. They beat Western Michigan 31-13. Toledo 37-10 over Central Michigan. 3 more MAC games tonight. If you need a distraction, there's Maction. College basketball last night. Top-ranked Kansas held off Michigan State 77-69. Duke and Kentucky played. It's always nice when they play. Fan bases aren't crazy about each other. All right. Cooper Flag, pretty good. 26-11 for Duke. Here's Duke's problem. They can't shoot from the outside. 4 of 23 from 3. Meanwhile, Kentucky hit 40% of their threes. They hit 5 more free throws. Guess what? They won by 5. Kentucky with the minor upset, 77-72 over Duke. North Florida's Magic, well, not magical last night. They got off to a slow start, trailed by double digits at the half. They finally lost a bye game. Can you believe that? The Ospreys? So they're 2-1 in their bye games when they're the sacrificial lamb supposed to come in and lose. Yeah. They had beaten South Carolina and Georgia Tech. They lost to Georgia last night, 90-77. UCF got by FAU, 194. South Florida winner over Arkansas Pine Bluff by 16. Florida State's 3-0. And what many think will be Leonard Hamilton's final year as coach.
They've already won more games than the football team's going to win this year.
Look at that. Look at that.
That's just a fact.
It is. They beat Tarleton State by 20. Women's hoops, Bethune lost on the road. The Gators won by 69. And got to schedule a little better next time. Chicago State may not be somebody you want to call. Hey, last night in the NBA, first round of the NBA Cup. The round robin thing, and eventually 4 teams go to Vegas. Mark, for whatever reason, the players are into this. I don't get it personally, but I know they get a little extra cash, but they're making so much damn money. I didn't know that this cash was, inspiration enough, but the Pistons beat the Heat in overtime, 123-121. Heat rallied from 9 down after 3. Thanks to Tyler Hero's 40, they force overtime. It's tied with 1.1 seconds to go, and Spoelstra calls a timeout he doesn't have.
Because he had 6 guys on the court. A coaching blunder by Spo at the end of the game.
So they get a technical. Pistons hit the technical free throws and win by 2. Orlando's won 3 in a row without Paolo. They beat Charlotte 114-89. How about this? Atlanta went into Boston and beat the Celtics 117-116. They came from 15 down in the second half to do it. Knicks won in Philly 111-99. Clay had 22 in his return to Golden State, but Steph was Steph late, scored their final 12 points, and the Warriors came from behind and beat the Mavs 120-117.
Pretty cool when Clay walked in the building. All the arena workers were lined up to greet Klay Thompson and give him a standing ovation as he came in. I thought that was that obviously he meant something to the workers of that arena because they don't have to do that.
Well, what did he play? 11 years there? 13 years there?
I understand, but I'm talking about the
Yep.
workers. I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about workers at the arena. He obviously treats people well if the workers did that.
Listen, this was a big deal to the Warriors. Clay tried to underplay it and the whole deal. And I'll be honest, I know Steph grabbed the microphone and said some words. Clay used to drive his boat to the games. So last night was Captain Clay night and all the fans were given something that, revolved around Clay and a boat, to wave. And I know he was greeted with a rousing ovation, a video presentation. I don't know if he let his guard down at all yesterday, though, because leading up to the game, he was treating it as if it was a Tuesday night in the NBA. I hope he took the time to enjoy it. Clay with 22, Warriors won by 3. Give it up to the Winnipeg Jets, man. They're 15-1. They started this big road trip. They went into New York, beat the Rangers 6-3. Panthers had their 7-game winning streak snapped. New Jersey came in and beat them 4-1.
And hit them and played hard and as if to say, we're on the scene. Now, I know it's only November.
Right.
But for New Jersey, they treated the game like it was a playoff game and played that way. Fun hockey game to watch. They played hard.
Bruins were down 2-0 after 2, scored 3 in the third to beat St. Louis in St. Louis, 3-2. Connor McDavid's back. He's pretty good. A goal and 3 helpers. Draisaitl, the winner in overtime. Edmonton 4-3 over the Islanders. A lot of news in the NFL yesterday. Bears fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. Our buddy Mike Westhoff had to resign for health reasons. He'd gotten dizzy last week, and it wasn't going away. Some vision problems, and so our 76-year-old friend resigned from the Broncos late yesterday. Dak Prescott officially out for the year, as is Dolphins right tackle Austin Jackson. He's having knee surgery, out for the year. Remember the story yesterday of Seahawks linebacker Terrell Dodson, the leading tackler on the team, and the Seahawks cut him coming off the bye week? Dolphins claimed him on waivers yesterday. So they got to pick up his salary. I mean, that's a 7+ figure waiver claim, but good for Chris Greer and the Dolphins. He's obviously a good player. I mean, there's no way all your linebackers are better than Terrell Dodson. So good for them. They made their team better yesterday. 49ers signed their top corner, Lenoir, 5 years, $92 million extension. It's official. The Rays can't play in the Trop next year. And they're going to have to come up with $56 million to repair the Trop for 2026. Now, the city of St. Pete's on the hook for that. Remember, they own it. The Rays are tenants. St. Pete City Council meets a week from tomorrow to decide if they're going to come up with the money. As of right now, the indications are they're not. That would make things very interesting. And finally, so tomorrow is the final bankruptcy hearing for the Diamond Sports Group, which is now the FanDuel network. And the Diamond Sports Group, they've got the rights to 16 NBA and NHL teams, I think, still. They're now going to propose tiered pricing, $6.99 a game, a monthly rate and a yearly rate. Be very interesting. The leagues are all against this. The leagues want this company put out of business. They want the courts to get rid of them once and for all. They go to bankruptcy court yet again tomorrow. We'll see what happens. And at 8 minutes before the hour, that was the starting 5. 5 big stories you need to know here on Miller and Moulton.
And they were big stories, all of them. Even that NBA stuff. They're into this.
They really are, man. Teams played hard. I mean, Portland beat who'd they beat last night? Minnesota or somebody like that? I mean, and the Blazers are terrible.
David, Embiid played. I mean,
what?
Had to be something.
Wow. This NBA Cup must be a big deal. Nice of him to show up. It's a good thing we're not on in Philly. That would not go well.
Well, all they care about is if he's going to play in the postseason. Now, they've got to make the postseason with the start they've had.
Yes, them and Milwaukee both. Could be a hell of a play-in game.
Well, Maxi's out for a while as well, so they're reeling in Philadelphia.
Yes, they are. So there you have it. A lot of stories to sink your teeth into yesterday in the sports world. Seth Everett in an hour, Bud Elliott in less than 2 hours. It's a hump day edition of Miller and Moulton.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Every once in a great while, Ambien, I'll make a parlay bet. For the most part, I make straight bets. And DC, yes, Mike Westhoff would be in charge of the blocking scheme on a field goal. That would.
Although he's not technically the special teams coach. He assists the special teams coaches, but by the way, Mark, my
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floormeister Studios. Floormeisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It's hour 2 of Miller and Moulton on this hump day. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Seth Everett an hour from now, Bud Elliott in about 90 minutes. Chris Perkins to kick off the Diamond District bonus hour to talk Dolphins. Hey, it'd be nice to talk to Chris coming off a win.
Yes, it will. And
Coming
games that are winnable on the schedule upcoming.
Yeah. Don't want to get our hopes up now. I mean, 3-6 after all. But, listen, 12 teams in the state of Florida play football last week. State went 1-11. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Unbelievable.
So they're already talking in the NFL about, jobs that are going to open up. Just put yourself in Belichick's shoes for a second. You tell me where these jobs would rank for you. Cowboys, Bears, Jags. We already have an opening in New Orleans. Where else could we have jobs open? I mean, where we're willing to bet right now that jobs are going to open up. The Jets have an opening. So are you willing to put money right now besides those 5 places that there will be an opening next year? I think it was 5, right?
That's 5 that you gave right there.
I gave you Cowboys. I
Bears,
gave you
Jags,
Bears.
And then we've got New Orleans and the Jets.
So now, I didn't mention the Jags, did I?
You said the Jags.
I did?
Yes, you said the
Okay.
Cowboys, the Bears, the Jags, the Jets, and New Orleans.
Okay. So are you willing to bet that there will be other openings? Like some are wondering if the Raiders are going to open up, if Pierce is only going to get one full season.
I think Vegas is going to open them.
Well, I think they need to finish strong here. I think Brady's influence on Mark Davis will be if they stagger to a 4-13 type season. I think he'll be like, yeah, we got to go in a different direction. I'll use my Fox money to pay him off. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. So, of those 5, though, which one interests you the most if you're Belichick?
The Let's Go podcast on Sirius XM on Monday nights. I working with Peyton Manning.
No, I'm being serious.
I am too. I don't know of these jobs. The Bears job would interest me the most because of the quarterback, but I hate the organizational structure.
I understand.
And I don't think Belichick gets that job. I don't think they would hire him.
Okay. Well, that's not what I asked you, though. I asked you if you're Belichick. Here's the other thing, though. You tell me, though. Remember, you're Belichick. If you don't get back into coaching next year, you think you coach again?
No.
Okay. So, that's the other thing that you're looking at here.
But I would rank these Bears 1.
Uh-huh.
Jags 2. And then I don't know if I would want any of the other jobs. And I'm not being flippant. I'm not trying to, the Cowboys job working for Jared doesn't interest me at all.
Now, there is something that is interesting about that. Parcells went to work for Jera for 4 years. And for 3.5 years, Jera left them alone. But once they started to get good and Jera knew it, Jera started sticking his nose back in it. And legend has it, that's when Bill was like, yeah, this ain't going to work for me. I got to go. But he left a good team that Wade Phillips came in and went 13-3 and was the 1 seed with. And you could argue Jera may be 20 years later in about the same boat as he was when he turned to Parcells and said, hey, man, I'm desperate. And Parcells said, well, then I'll only do this, but you got to stay the hell out of the way and shut the hell up.
And Bill's not coaching the Jets. He's not.
I know. He does hate that organization.
He does.
And
I wonder if he'd coach the Cowboys because of his love of the Giants. And I'm serious about that. Like, I think there's one team in the NFC East he'd coach. It's the Giants. I think there's one team in the AFC East he would coach, and he already did. It's the Patriots.
I do think the Giants is the only organization that if he doesn't come back to coaching this year would call him down the road. I do think he could sit out another year. I think he could sit out 3 years. And I think that if the Giants got rid of Daboll, I think they'd hire Belichick. Even at 75, I think they'd hire Belichick.
And New Orleans is a terrible situation.
Yes.
From a cap standpoint. You need 4 or 5 years to turn that around in New Orleans. That's a full reset. So I don't think he's interested in that job.
I'm going to say it again. Aaron Glenn's going to get that job. I'm going to say that again. Aaron Glenn's going to get the Saints job. We'll see if I'm right. But now Belichick's got some competition. Mike Vrabel's out there. That's a good coach. Hey, Belichick, that's a good coach. And never mind the hotshot offensive coordinator in Detroit. Hey, has Cliff Kingsbury rehabilitated himself in such short order that I saw somebody yesterday say, well, listen, if you're the Bears, aren't you all in on the quarterback? Don't you have to call Kingsbury? I mean, he dealt with the kid in college, right?
And that's a perfect hire for Chicago because it keeps the mismanaged organizational structure intact.
Right.
On top.
Right. The GM can still be the GM and the coach who just wants to coach. And,
And
doesn't want
Warren can still be whatever he is,
Right.
as president of the organization.
Right.
And there's insulation from ownership, which keeps screwing this up.
But just if you're Belichick, so you go Cowboys 1,
No, Bears 1,
Bears.
Jags 2.
I'd actually go Jags. I don't think Khan's a bad owner. I think he's made mistakes in who he's hired. But he largely stays out of the way. And he has no problem spending money. You want to sign someone a free agent, need a big signing bonus? Here's the check. I'm good with that. All right. I mean, he's taken $1 billion out of his own pocket to help the stadium finance deal over the next 3 years. He's bought up a bunch of land downtown in Jacksonville.
Easy media town.
Very.
They'd be lapdogs if Belichick got the job there.
And you got a quarterback. Now, we can debate how good he is, but come on now. You can't say I got a quarterback in Chicago. I mean, come on. What has that kid proven? I mean, Trevor Lawrence has just had back-to-back winning seasons and went and won a playoff game. I mean, he's done something in this league. You may not think that he's great or ever going to be great or what have you, and that's fine. And he hasn't been great and proven yet that he's going to be. But, I mean, come on now. If you're a coach on the outside of all the teams that we mentioned there, you want 31-year-old Dak or 25-year-old Trevor? Who do you want to work with? Who's
Trevor.
owner, cap situation, and quarterback? Which one's better, Jacksonville or Dallas?
Oh, it's Jacksonville. I mean, they still got to deal with the Parsons issue and what they're going to pay him that's going to extend how much money they're spending and doesn't leave a whole hell of a lot for free agents or anything else in Dallas.
Not only that, the owner in Jacksonville doesn't have his own radio show. Bill would love the Jacksonville media. He could do however he wants to handle it. He wants to go back to being Foxborough Bill. They'd be fine with that. Whatever. Absolutely. We're on to Cincinnati, Bill. We agree with you, Coach. Now, how many more jobs? First off, do you think any of those jobs don't open up? I mean, New Orleans and the Jets are already open.
The Bears is opening up. The Cowboys is opening up. The Jags is opening up. The one here that we're not talking about is Philadelphia.
Right.
Because if they happen to get beat early in the postseason again and screw this thing up, then Sirianni's gone.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually think they could lose the NFC title game and they'd still move on from them. I just think that front office may just look at one another and go, so if we had Belichick, would we have gone to the Super Bowl? Because apparently they were so close to pulling the trigger during the offseason.
So I think the Eagles are still really in play here. And I know they seem to have gotten their act together and things are going right, but they can turn badly quickly. And if that happens, they'll be looking for a new coach.
I'm kind of intrigued about the Raiders. I'm not going to lie.
Why?
What do you mean, why? Okay, first off, Belichick had great respect for Al Davis. Okay. Secondly, Mark Davis would let Bill do whatever he wanted. Third, who's the other owner who just signed on board? You don't think Brady will say to Mark Davis, we should call Bill? I have his number.
I'm asking why Bill would want to take the job.
Well, first off, we don't know how many places are going to be willing to hire him. I mean, listen, you and I both think the Bears would never call him.
Correct.
Okay. New Orleans isn't going to call him. And we don't think there'll be mutual interest. The Jets aren't going to call him, and if they do, they'll just get a laugh track. Okay? Now, we think Dallas will call him, but he might not want to deal with it. gets a blank canvas in Las Vegas. I mean, it'll be odd bringing Josh McDaniels back as offensive coordinator since he failed there as a head coach. But boom.
Walking in as the worst team in the division with all of that to climb, I just don't see that as being the most advantageous job to take. And I know what you're saying, that there might only be one offer.
Spitz in our Twitch chat room says he thinks Belichick has coached his last game. Do you? I
No.
don't. Yeah, I think he's coaching next year. I think he'll have to just take the best damn thing that's out there, though. And we all define best differently. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Core-Tech, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Yeah, K-Ball, he was. And they gave it to Raheem instead. The whole front office structure in Atlanta begged Arthur Blank to go with Raheem instead of Belichick. RCB, I think he wants the Giants. I actually like Dable. I don't think Dable's the problem. I think Shane's the problem. More so than Dable. I mean, Shane had 2 bad drafts. Now this one, it looks like he got right, but I think Dable with a quarterback would be fine. I mean, the game tape that I see week in, week out, they're open receivers all over the field. Daniel Jones sucks. Oh, man. But they took Thibodeau and Evan Neal, 5th and 7th overall. Thibodeau's okay. Neal's a bust. You know, 4th round pick on Bellinger, the tight end. He's barely active. 3rd round pick on Hyatt, the wide receiver. He's barely active. Gave up a 3rd round pick for 1 year of Darren Waller before he retired on him. Passed up Breece Hall to draft Wan'Dale Robinson instead. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Hasn't been able to find offensive linemen. Has had to go out and buy them on the interior. I mean, the 2nd round center is okay. I actually like that pick. The kid's okay. I thought he'd be better. But, you know, his first 2 drafts were probably a D and a C minus. I mean, I'm keeping them both because they've got chemistry, and, you know, I think that's important between the GM and the head coach and all that. But I think they're in the situation that they're in because they inherited a bad roster, and he hasn't done a good job making it better until now.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour on this hump day. Hope your week's going well. Thanks for getting over it with us, Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X, Seth Everett in about 40 minutes time, Bud Elliott in a little more than an hour. By the way, he, of course, you know, he released his playoff projections, you know, once again. And so he's got Oregon 1, Texas 2, Miami 3, BYU 4. Which I have to admit, so does he have BYU losing a game and then beating Colorado or whoever else? Because obviously BYU is ahead of Miami right now. So the only way, in theory, you know, if BYU posts 13-0, how are they going to be the 4 seed, right?
Correct.
So we'll talk to him about that.
Flaw number 1.
I'm sorry, what?
Flaw number 1.
Ohio State is the 5. I got to tell you, if Bud Elliott ends up, and this is a projection, you know, he's not saying as if we're doing this today. He's saying this is how I think it's going to finish up. Like right now, the last team in by the committee is Ole Miss. Bud has Ole Miss a 7 seed, getting a home game, hosting Indiana, by the way. Taking into account Indiana likely to lose to Ohio State. By the way, let me ask you this. Where do you think Ohio State is seated if they lose to Oregon again in the Big Ten title game?
5.
So you think they'll be the best non-conference champion anyway?
Yeah, the loser of the Oregon-Ohio State game is going to be the 5 seed.
Okay. Well,
That's my prediction.
And Bud has Ohio State 5. For what it's worth right now, Bud's last team in, and I do love the fact that we can now use that for college football. It's always been a college basketball thing, last team in, first team out, and now we can use it for football also. I love that. It's just another fan for me of expanding the playoff. Last team in is Alabama. So, yes, that's right, because Bud has Boise as an 11. That 12th seeded Alabama would go to Ohio State. I'd max out a credit card for that. If I could help contribute in any way possible to make that happen, I would max out a credit card.
It's cute, and I love Bud for doing these projections each week, but the committee has made it very apparent. If there's one thing that the committee has told us in 2 weeks, is that the group of 5 team is going to be the 12 seed. I mean, that's what they skip the rest of it. I don't even care. If the rest of it's just a TV show until we get to the end, they have told us that Boise or Army is going to be the 12 seed.
So Bama would go to Ohio State. Boise would go to Penn State. I got to admit, I'd love to see that game. I think the Broncos got a real shot.
I agree 100%.
Indiana would go to Ole Miss. Oh, the Grove would be spectacular. Notre Dame's hosting Georgia in an 8-9 game. And Mark, you know, because you were at one of the 2 games, that home and home worked. Georgia won them both, but that home and home worked.
That was a lot of fun in Athens. I've been to Athens numerous times for a lot of big games. The atmosphere was completely different for Notre Dame. It was more respectful than an SEC game, but yet still had all of the juice of a big-time college football game.
The fan base seemed genuinely excited that Notre Dame was there, right?
Yes.
You know, obviously they were very loud on third downs and but
no, they were as disrespectful as they could be to Notre Dame during the game.
Right.
But from the time they woke up in the morning until kickoff, they were excited about the game.
And I think
because they won, once the game was over, they were still excited about the game.
Right. And both those games were in prime time. It was in Notre Dame in 2017, and it was at Georgia in 2019. So that's Bud Elliott's college football playoff projection. Notice Tennessee out. He's got Georgia beating them this Saturday, and Tennessee would be out. Ole Miss at 10-2, Bama at 10-2, Tennessee at 10-2. Bud's, unless he's got Tennessee also losing to Vandy or somebody, but somebody's got to be out. I mean, you know, I got to admit, I don't think it's going to be Bama, and not just because of their name recognition, but Bama's got some real quality wins. Yeah, I know they lost to Vandy, but what means more? I mean, they beat Georgia. They beat LSU. Now, it would be interesting, though, obviously, 10-2 Tennessee, 10-2 Alabama. Tennessee beat them head-to-head. You know, what are we going with here? Last team to lose is out, so that would be Tennessee?
How much is the world going to freak out if Ohio State just drubs Indiana and there's 5 SEC teams and 11-1 Indiana's left out?
Quote, the world? Who's the world? You talking the national college football media?
The college football world. If 5 SEC get in and 3 Big Ten get in. Because I still think that's a distinct possibility, David.
Okay. I asked you yesterday if Indiana loses by 14, do they get in? And you said yes. So
yes.
How big does the beatdown have to be? 20 or
I don't
more?
know. Yeah, 20 or more.
Okay. So 38-17 type deal?
Right.
All right.
42. Ohio State scores at will, which they haven't done against many teams.
No, they haven't.
And they just stop that Indiana offense cold.
I mean, we brought it up yesterday, though. There are teams out there, Texas, Penn State, Indiana. There are not quality wins. I mean, Penn State's best win going to happen in a week and a half when they go to Minnesota? I mean, the problem is the overtime win at USC. USC's 4-5.
They've beaten Illinois, USC, Wisconsin, Washington.
And non-conference, they did beat West Virginia. So, I mean, is their best win Wisconsin or West Virginia? Wisconsin close? I mean, they did win in Morgantown, and they whooped them. But,
West Virginia's 5-4.
I understand that. It was week 1. They whooped them, though. I mean, they didn't just beat them. They whooped them.
I mean, by record, their best wins the 6-3 Illinois team.
Right, by record. Right. We've all seen Illinois play. They're cute.
They play hard.
Yeah, pat them on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Varsity JV.
But, hey, we went through Texas's schedule yesterday. It's unreal. It's not that much stronger than Missouri's, who Texas has beaten. Now, Texas ends the year with A&M. But if they lose it, Texas will have played 2 ranked teams and lost to them both. I mean, there's really not much difference between Texas's schedule and Indiana's, except that Texas will have played 2 and Indiana only played 1. And we're going to have this is going to happen every year now for the rest of the decade. We've got unbalanced scheduling. And we as fans and the College Football Playoff Committee and the National Media Mark, we're just going to have to figure it out. What means more? Quality wins, bad losses, quality schedule, not so good schedule.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
The world-famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world-famous cigar bar.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. Sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
I don't think so, DC. I really don't. I think they're preparing to put 5 SEC teams in and 3 Big Ten if Indiana gets clobbered. You know what's going to be really silly this year is the bowl games.
Yes. But, ESPN is essentially a government subsidy. I mean, ESPN's propping up the bowls. It's programming. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, what is this? It's a television show.
And we like watching football on TV. Hence, Maction.
As a distraction.
Really pissed off, too, because I was about to say yesterday in that segment that the bet of the day is Toledo over Central Michigan because CMU sucks. And I didn't get it out, and they just clobbered them.
Well, then you could go Miami of Ohio tonight against Kent State. That's 0-9 Kent State.
Brian, we have not ever brought it up, and I've wanted to because I am fascinated to see if people are interested. And I want Tyson to kill him. I want Tyson to hit him so hard that Paul's feet come up and he's parallel with the ground.
Is that Friday or Saturday?
Friday.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
"22 minutes till the top of the hour." Seth Everett joins us then. A lot to talk about with Seth. Bud Elliott 1 hour from now. There's always a lot to talk to Bud about. And Chris Perkins a little more than an hour to kick off our Diamond District bonus hour to talk Dolphins. Hey, they won!
The Dolphins win.
Oh, my goodness. You go John Sterling. Oh, man. It's going to take me a while to get that out of my head. So you went there during the break. It's one of the beauties of the Twitch chat room. We can talk about things that it might not necessarily talk about on air, although sometimes you all bring up something in which we go, okay, we'll talk about that on air. Twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. Chime in the chat room or text Mark at 21,000. I say Mark because he has the screen in front of him. I know there's a way for me to see the text too. That involves me and technology, and well, we'll just keep things as they are.
We could do it. It wouldn't be that hard, but
yeah.
I mean, if they really want the text to get to you, I'll forward it to you.
Okay. Sounds good. So it sounds like you're purchasing a pay-per-view event Friday night?
No.
Well, what do you mean? I thought you just said you were.
No. I'm interested, but I'm not spending money to see what Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight in a Netflix fight. No.
So
I want Tyson to whoop him. I mean, I want Tyson to knock him out in ways I've not wanted to see a human knocked out before.
All right. Tyson's 58. He's my age, for goodness sakes.
Right.
Jake Paul's 27. What was he again? I mean, he's like
a YouTuber,
right
turned boxer.
Yeah,
And he's beaten a couple of people, and he's become a fighter. And now he's fighting an old guy. I'm rooting for the old guy.
So this thing's happening at Jerry's place, by the way, in Dallas. All right. So 14-ounce gloves, which are not normal, and also shorter rounds. What the heck? I mean, come on. Couldn't we at least make this like real boxing? Tyson hasn't fought in 19 years. 19 years. He's 58. How much credit are you going to give Jake Paul if he beats him? Seriously. You beat up a 58-year-old man. You're 27. Even if the 58-year-old man, former heavyweight champion, former everything. 58, man.
Right.
If they fought on the street, if two guys of that age, that build, start fighting on the street, what would your thought be?
Why is he fighting the old guy? What did the old guy do?
Right. So if he were to beat the old guy in a street fight, what would you say?
Well, it's embarrassing. What are you doing hitting an old guy?
Okay. But instead,
the guy happens to be the former heavyweight champion of the world.
All right. If I'm actually going to analyze this for 10 seconds, Tyson had a hell of a chin. I mean, he really did. And if you don't remember, you're not old enough, or you don't just remember, watch the beating that Buster Douglas puts on him before he finally crumbled. Watch the beating Evander Holyfield put on him, and he didn't crumble. I mean, he lost twice, once by DQ, but that first fight was a hell of a fight, by the way. That never gets talked about because of the second debacle. And take a look at the beating Lennox Lewis administered to Tyson. I mean, Tyson has a chin. I mean, that's my thing, Mark. I mean, I'd love to talk to a boxing person or a fighter. Do you lose the chin? Because if not, I'm trying to think. See, Tyson, I think, could take anybody in the world out with a punch. I'm trying to think, how is Jake Paul going to take Tyson out unless he is just beating the tar out of him? If you know what I mean.
I've got this right, Jake Paul is the favorite to win this fight.
Oh, yeah. No, he's a solid favorite. I think you can get like minus 250 or plus 250, plus 300 on Tyson. Yeah, Jake Paul's the solid favorite to win this.
8 2-minute rounds.
Come on. Please. If you're going to fight, fight. All right? You're going to sell it as a boxing match. Make it a damn boxing match.
It's not. It's an exhibition. It's a TV show, David, like everything else. So you have no interest whatsoever. Mike Tyson, no one moved the needle in boxing in the past, what?
Since Ali. No one moved the needle. I mean, even as glorious as Hagler, Leonard, Hearns were, no one moved the needle since Ali like Tyson. No one. I mean, pay-per-view buys, the Hispanic fighters, could get big buys and what have you. But no, in terms of like nightly news, okay, everyone and everything stopping what they were doing. No, that was Tyson. I mean, we watched Tuesday night fights on USA Network, for goodness sakes, because of Tyson. I do have car crash interest, as a gentleman in our Twitch chat room says. I have to admit, I do. I'm just trying to think. I mean, Jake Paul can't hit as hard as Tyson.
I don't think so.
I don't see how that's possible. And so to me, and Jake Paul's never been hit. Never been hit. Like in theory, he's going to get hit at least once Friday night.
That's what I want to see. That's what interests me, is that if Tyson can put one punch on Jake Paul, what happens?
And Tyson's been hit harder than he's going to get hit Friday night.
Not as a nearly 60-year-old, though.
True. But you tell me, I mean, I feel like I'm a bouncer at a bar again. I'm trying to think about some of the fights I had to break up in bars, okay, between, younger people and middle-aged or older people, okay? I mean, I'm telling you, the old guy still had a chin. He didn't have the reflexes to stop getting hit. He still had power, and he still had a chin. Remember when Foreman was 46, hanging out in the middle of the ring? Michael Moore is using him as a speed bag. And he's taking it, waiting for a shot.
So I do have a curiosity, but I don't think, I've been trying to figure out, I don't think I get this for free by having Netflix. I mean, they're going to want me to pay for this. I just don't know what it is I have to pay. And I've been diligently trying to figure that out during this segment, and I can't seem to get Netflix to give me an answer. But
Now,
Friday night.
I'm also doing some self-loathing right now. I have to admit, I'm beating myself up. Because when's the last time we talked about a fight?
Only during today was a day when we talk about fights that happened
right
30 years ago.
I mean,
so I'm being told in the Twitch chat room, this is free if I have Netflix. So if that's the case, I'll watch.
Well, then I will too, probably. Although, no, I'll be on the road. Damn. Because I would have watched. Because this is like a car crash. I'm curious. I am.
So, yeah, I'll watch. It's not going to cost me anything. I'm in.
But so how much credit you giving the 27-year-old if he beats Mike Tyson in an 8-round decision? I mean, seriously. Now,
I'll give him all kinds of credit for this. He has turned himself into something that people watch. He has made himself all kinds of money by jumping into the boxing ring. He's estimated to get $40 million for this fight. It is promotion personified by Jake Paul. For all the people that watch wrestling in the world, these guys are actually hitting one another.
I mean, it's I'm looking at a tail of the tape. It's just hysterical. Okay. Notable wins: Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz, Mike Perry. Meanwhile, Mike Tyson, Michael Spinks, Trevor Berbick, Larry Holmes, Notable losses: Tommy Fury, Buster Douglas, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis.
I think it's, if we were to do poll questions, I think it's worthy of a poll question. Are you going to watch on Friday night?
So Jake Paul is 31 years younger and has a 5-inch reach advantage.
But Jake Paul's not a boxer in the sense that he's going to be jabbing Tyson away. He wants to knock him out too.
Right. I know I can get like plus 250 to plus 300 on Tyson. Is there a knockout specific bet? Because if Tyson wins, he's knocking him out. I mean, I've got to believe if he's winning the fight, don't you think he's hitting him more than he's getting hit? Then he's going to take him out. One guy, by the way, is Iron Mike. The other guy, I did not know this. Jake Paul apparently is, quote, the problem child.
Got to have a nickname, David. It's not worth fighting unless you have a nickname.
I understand that. So Iron Mike is fighting the problem child.
And you're only getting plus 180 on Tyson.
What?
You're down to plus 160.
Damn.
Minus 195 on Jake Paul.
Last week it was plus 250. We were talking about it. I don't mean us. I was sitting around, a bunch of guys were interested in it. And I was shocked to find out Tyson was an underdog.
You can get plus 220 if Tyson wins by a knockout.
Now, I'm all over that.
Plus 1,100 for a draw. I think that's in play because this is all rigged.
So apparently Paul's making twice as much as Tyson
Yes.
also. Which just shows how out of touch I am. Because to me, I mean, Tyson is the draw here, not Jake Paul.
The only reason I'm interested, Jake Paul's fought a bunch.
Right.
I've not been interested in any of his fights.
No.
I'm interested in this one for one reason and one reason only. He's fighting Mike Tyson. Now, is that because I'm 55 and Tyson's 58 and I'm rooting for the old guy? Probably a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it a little nostalgia with Tyson? Absolutely.
Right.
So, yeah, if it comes as part of my Netflix, which it does, I'll watch.
All right. Doesn't boxing somehow, some way have to capitalize on this if this ends up being a good show? One way or the other?
How do they capitalize on it?
I don't know. Miller and Moulton. So, all right, we went there. I slowed down at the car wreck. I paid attention. I said, hey, look at that. Hope nobody's hurt. All right. Ooh, that looks like a bad one. Now I'm going to self-loathing the rest of the show. I really am.
You did not want to go here this week, did you?
No. But what's the theme of the show? It's what is it that we're talking about?
A TV show, David.
That's 90% of what sports is. It's a TV show. So this is a TV show. So I went down that road.
Well, and I'm glad I could do it with you, David. We went down that road together.
Yeah, I know, but you're proud of it, and I'm self-loathing. It's very different. Miller and Moulton. Speaking of self-loathing, Seth Everett is next.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no.
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and one replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor, a neighborly company.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
A natural diamond is the oldest artifact you will ever touch, and each is one of a kind. Jason and Todd at the Diamond District would like to meet you personally and share their love of natural diamonds and the positive impact of purchasing a natural diamond. We promise that in our vault sits the largest selection of GIA-certified natural diamonds at the most competitive prices in the world. Jason and Todd look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to their Diamond District family.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Good morning.
Hi, Seth.
Morning.
Hi.
How
What's
are
up,
you?
bud?
Nice win last night for your Devils.
Oh, what a clutch win.
They played that game like it was a playoff game.
You could feel it.
A lot of
It's great.
physicality. Good game. Watch most of it.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun.
Seth, I just got a text from a listener who says, can you ask Seth if he's concerned with Arsenal so far? They're in 4th. They could easily be in 7th.
Easily be in 7th.
Are you concerned?
Quite. To be fair, quite.
Is there anything they can do, Seth, or do they just have to get their head out of there?
I guess start winning. Here's the argument. Right now, they're 9 back of the title. Right? By New Year's Day, what's the number going to be? It's not going to be 9. It'll be 6. It'll be 5. It'll be 4. If it's 4 or 3, you got a dogfight on your hands.
Uh-huh.
You know, Liverpool's going to drop points. It's just a matter of when. They're not running the table in November. So but Arsenal now has to win. They've gotten so many unfortunate I don't want to say bad luck, but just bad fortune. Stupid plays where it cost them a red card. They played with 10 men 3 times. They've had a penalty shot against them for dumb reasons. It's just, I don't know.
All right.
The odds are against them.
Gotcha. I do want to answer Mark in our Twitch chat room. You know what we mean by it's a TV show. It's the revenue generated by television that is driving sports. That's what we mean by it's a TV show. Okay, we're not saying that the games aren't on the up and up. Okay,
No, it's not wrestling.
Right. So, but to Mark in our Twitch chat room, that's what we mean by it's a TV show. The NFL is a TV show. Not that the games aren't on the up and up. No. So,
How damned.
Nice little 15-minute glitch. Which in the grand scheme of things is not a big deal. For a radio show, though, it's a problem.
Go ahead and throw your headsets on. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. Why not? It'll make it work a little bit better and sound a little bit better as we grovel through what was a interesting segment, to say the least. Seth Everett was supposed to join us. But he said he would join us later if we had. He's available until 9:30.
Well, how about we bring him on next segment?
How about we do that?
We'll do a slightly shorter segment with Seth coming up next.
Works for me. Sorry about the distractions there of you along the network, but we apparently, whatever problems were there are now fixed, and we're back up and running the normal way. David and I are not in the same studio. For those that do not know, I'm here in Southwest Florida. David is in Jacksonville. We are hooked up by an internet connection, and when that goes kaputs, we go kaputs.
Kaputs, huh?
Kaputs. Or kaputski. Whichever one you want to go with. It's part of my grandmother's language, David. It's been passed down from generations.
I understand. I was using some of my mom's language during the road trip this weekend and just had people looking at me.
I will say on the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson thing, we did get one texter who said that's 10 minutes. I'll never get back, but that's the only one. So for the rest of you, you might be watching.
Which is funny because we got more praise than we got, distractions or criticism, I should say. So people seem to like it, but that gentleman didn't. Don't worry, we're not going back down that road again.
No, we are not.
No, it's a 4-hour show, 12 segments. One of them sucked. Okay, 11 out of 12 ain't bad. That was a hit by Meatloaf back in the day. Miller and Moulton. We'll try it again with Seth Everett next.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now. American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
When you enter the Diamond District, you will quickly discover what makes Jason and Todd so unique to Southwest Florida. Within the walls of the Diamond District, you'll find many of America's top jewelry designers who have chosen the Diamond District as their authorized representative in Southwest Florida. Takori, Fana, A. Jaffe, Veragio, Christopher Designs, Shy Creations, Henri Darcy, all names synonymous with excellence, and all proudly showcased at the Diamond District. This is Miller and Moulton.
Hi, Seth.
Hi. And those are the players I know did steroids, and I'm never telling you again. R.I.P. Darrell Hamilton.
So, by the way, how's the new place working out?
The place is amazing. How's the background? What do you think? Do I need more light?
You don't need more light, in my opinion.
Okay. Close the shades. The glare was a little bit, but end of the day, the glare is not that bad.
Well, actually, it's an interesting lighting situation because, yes, the shades are closed, but much more light gets through now than it used to.
Yeah.
So
try the light. I want to just see if it balances.
All right. I'm going to guess that's better. I'm going to guess that's better.
Yeah, that's better.
The difference between my old location and this location, there was never a light in that room. There
Gotcha.
wasn't anything on the ceiling. Like, it was only lamps and stuff.
Right.
This whole room gets lit up.
Right. That's my hotel's dilemma every time, Mondays and Tuesdays during football, because there are no overhead lights in hotel rooms.
Yeah. Yep.
Why, Mark? Why is it not true? It's 100% true.
Yeah. What are you talking about? We were fired from our first act after 10 years. We were fired from our second act after 4 years. And the Florida Sports Network dumped us. And the only reason we're on the air is we're making a go of it.
We own the company now. We are.
Yeah. No, we got dumped. We got dumped, and with no guarantee of any revenue coming in, and had to start from scratch. No, it's very true that we were fired 3 times.
It's very true.
That's just in this line of work.
Right.
I have to schlep to Long Island today.
Why's that?
Place my soon-to-be ex-wife's stepfather passed away.
Oh.
And that's like a grandfather to my kids. And
Sure. So you have to
you do the right thing.
Yep. Yep.
You show, but right now Apple Maps saying 158.
Well, I will say,
I'd rather go to Syracuse. Well,
I understand you'd be better received, but I will say 2 hours from now the traffic should be a little better. You are at the height of morning rush right now.
I know the funeral's at noon. I think I'm going to leave around 9:15.
Yeah, no. I'd leave no later than 10. But
yeah. Oh, I'm leaving soon. Sports with Friends is finished, and I think as soon as I submit it, I think I'll be done. I'll get out of here. This is going to be a chunk of my life that I'll never get back.
Nope. Comes with the territory, though.
Yeah. No,
kids okay?
What?
Are the kids okay?
Yeah, they're good. They're good. We have Saturday is my daughter's bat mitzvah.
I know that. I just meant about the stepdad dying.
Yeah, okay? That sucks. But yeah. No, the kids they're okay with it. The dynamic was weird, but it is what it is. I offered to take them. She wants them. She has them for the week. I think they're more annoyed about that.
And that may have been StreamYard.
Oh, really? So not the building, just StreamYard?
It might have been StreamYard because we never got kicked off our satellite connection. So if the internet was down, we would have lost the satellite connection. So I don't know.
It was weird. I thought it was this place because I haven't been here long enough, and I was just like, "Oh, maybe the internet is wonky," and I had no idea.
And I thought it was my place.
That's right.
But I'm like, wait a minute,
it was my place.
Abbott and Costello.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
The internet's back up and running. So are we. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. It'll be an abbreviated discussion with Seth Everett. Sports with Friends Hall of Justice. Follow him on X at Seth_Everett, Seth_Everett. Bud Elliott to follow in a little more than 15 minutes. Chris Perkins at the top of the hour. Top of the morning to you, buddy. How are you?
Good morning. I wanted to follow up with you guys on something that we talked about last week. I'm sure you saw the story, and I'm sure you talked about it. The Tropicana Field assessment.
Right.
$55 million with a $22 million deductible and probably not covering the remaining 33.
We talked
Right.
about it. We
and
thought
new council people in St. Petersburg, Florida, who may not be willing to vote for this like the last ones were. This is a huge story, Seth.
That's a pickle and a pickle and a pickle.
Well, Seth, in all seriousness, we think Sternberg would have no choice but to dip into his pocket and cover the $34 million. Okay, obviously he doesn't want to, but he's got to remain a viable major league franchise in that market. Mark, I put it to Mark, and Mark said, if I'm Sternberg, I only do it if you have formally passed the vote and you are going to build the new stadium. Apparently, there's another vote left. But if you're Sternberg, if the city council is going to go through with the stadium plans, but they say you have to pay the $34 million, don't you do it?
I think he has to, but wow, he's not going to want to.
No.
What are his choices, though, Seth?
Sell.
Not.
Yeah, I've always thought I always thought Stu Sternberg was going to find a breaking point. I always thought that when the constant fighting for the new stadium, and 10 years ago I said there's going to be a day where he just says I can't anymore.
Okay,
this might be it. I don't know.
But what city do you think is a viable? Because baseball does not want to lose Nashville and Portland and the $2 billion in expansion fees that they're going to get from both as their top expansion option. So if for whatever reason this deal now crashes and burns, remember baseball has to approve any move. Well, where is it they would want the Rays to go?
I don't know. That's uncharted territory. That is way past. I never thought when the talk of the new ballpark was coming, I thought that Sternberg was out of the woods, for lack of a better phrase. I don't know. I don't know him well enough. I'm calling Mark Topkin. Hold on. Let's get him on the line.
But see, to me, though, I think, isn't this where Major League Baseball gets involved in a way they didn't get involved in Oakland? Okay.
I think they're going to try to let this. They're going to get it to a point where either Tropicana Field is getting rebuilt under its current system, or it's not, and their phone is taking their call. That's all baseball's doing. I don't think baseball's going to be proactive in this, just like we're never proactive in Oakland.
So if Sternberg doesn't pay the difference in the deductible, the $22 million deductible in this thing, do you think that Major League Baseball would ever do it themselves, that they would flip the bill for this to keep the franchise here?
I don't think so, no.
No, it's $1 million an owner. I think the owners would scream. They're like, we give the Rays enough money in revenue sharing, number one. But what I'm wondering, though, is this where baseball sits down with Sternberg and says, well, okay, well, where you want to go? We'll make it happen. Like we had David Sampson on yesterday and said, David, because he brought up the Expos, and we brought up the viability of Montreal, and he said, well, they'd need a new stadium, they need local ownership, they'd have to have the $2 billion on the table, and what have you.
What owner comes forward? This is the Donald Sterling, Steve Ballmer situation where someone had to buy them, and you didn't know Steve Ballmer was going to buy them when they kicked Donald Sterling out of the league. Right. This is the same situation. If Sternberg sells, he announces that he's selling. Or he doesn't even announce it. He just tells baseball that he's selling, and then you see what owner comes in. Where's the Clay Bennett that's going to take the Seattle Supersonics to Oklahoma City? That's inside baseball, folks.
Well, but we're just wondering what's the city, though. Like Oklahoma City had NBA games because of Katrina. They wanted an NBA franchise. Besides, I mean, Orlando, when Pat Williams was alive, he was spearheading Orlando wants a franchise, but Orlando doesn't have a stadium. They don't have financing for it. I mean, outside of Nashville and Portland, Seth, who does?
I don't know. And I don't think that owner is just banging down the door to, if you look at most baseball teams, their valuations have never been higher and their operating costs have never been also higher. So I don't know. I don't know who wants. Someone will come up, and that's where I'm saying if he says I want to sell, then it's out of his hands. He's not talking about relocation. He's talking about selling. There could be an owner that wants to take on the $34 million and say, I want to build a palace in Southwest Florida.
Well, if you're going to you're going to buy the franchise for $1 billion, $1.5 billion, $2 billion, whatever the Rays are going to sell for. Another $34 million to fix the Trop for a year is a drop in the bucket in this whole thing.
Correct. But when the Wilpons were having their problems with Madoff, Steve Cohen didn't exist in their vernacular. They didn't have a Steve Cohen on the ready. So neither do the Rays. They don't have this mystery seller that is just a mystery buyer who's just going to swoop in and fix it. And that's assuming that Stu Sternberg doesn't want to keep the team. He's kept the team through so much. What a mess.
It is.
Oh
it
my
is.
God.
And 2 new city council people now in St. Pete after the election. They're both apparently against the stadium deal. Many of them have already come out and said, yeah, we ain't. And they said it when they voted 2 weeks ago for $6.5 million to clean up the Trop, just to clean it up. And quite a few of them publicly said, and this is the only money we're going to allocate to this.
Yeah. I saw the story yesterday and I thought of you guys and thought about that podcast because normally I try to do a podcast after something happens so it doesn't get outdated. It's not outdated yet. That show is not outdated yet, but it's getting close.
Well, the funny thing is you thought you'd have Topkin on again before the year was up. Okay,
No.
You may have to have him back before Thanksgiving at this point. But my goodness. Hey, quickly, the Bally's thing, which is not Bally's anymore, Diamond Sports Group, which is now the FanDuel Network. So they want to do pay-per-view.
Yeah.
For all the NBA and NHL teams. $6.99 a game, a monthly rate, a season-long rate. It goes to bankruptcy court tomorrow. Everybody's against what they're proposing, right? Every league, every team, everybody hates it.
Hates it. The precedent that they have is that's what New England Sports Network has done and MSG has done. And I don't know if you guys saw, but in New York, the Yes Network and MSG combined, they made one app. So you can get the Yankees, Nets, Knicks, Rangers, Devils all on one app, which is just what I want. The argument has to be that they need to get out of this court. And baseball, don't forget, is still in the situation where next year ESPN can opt out of their contract, and they want to tie in RSNs to that. I mean, we don't have the time to say like all the potential options. They're messy. Not as messy as Tampa right now, but messy.
Hall of Justice Sports with Friends. Seth, what do you got this week?
Brett McMurphy, College Football Insider. Speaking of messy, we talk about a fantastic season with the college football playoff and all the realignment and all the things that are going on in college football. He broke the Urban Meyer story. I still am fascinated by that. Just a great reporter, Brett McMurphy on Sports with Friends. Hall of Justice is back. We review Agatha All Along. And the guy, the young lady who I had on the show to review it, liked it a lot more than I did.
Well, Seth, let's be honest. Most people like things a lot more than you these days.
That's not true. So some things I like. Just Hall of Justice. I haven't watched a good thing in a while.
Well, that's what we're getting at. There's a lot that you like, just nothing that would be in a Hall of Justice podcast. He's Seth Everett, Sports with Friends Hall of Justice. Follow him on X at Seth_Everett. Bud Elliott to talk all things college football next.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
The world-famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination, with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world-famous Cigar Bar. Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Is snoring bothering your spouse? Would you like to sleep in the same bed again? Do you know that snoring can affect your sleep cycle and cause lower testosterone levels? At Sleep Treatment Direct, we have easy solutions. We have a simple laser procedure that can improve snoring in 10 minutes. If you would like to get back in the same bed or are looking for a natural way to treat low testosterone, give us a call at 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Or go to sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Yeah, and they have no idea what it's going to do, Dratharian. They just know it's going to form. They have no idea where it's going. Sarah.
Yeah, everything they're saying doesn't look good.
Bud. Good morning, Bud.
Morning, guys.
How are you?
Good. Just sorry about the no hairdo today. Had to change the schedule a little bit with the call times.
That's fine. Is everything okay?
The what now?
Is everything okay?
Oh, just had to get a workout in. Yeah. How you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Nice, man.
My wife forced me to work out yesterday. I actually feel pretty good today.
They'll do that to you.
We have a gym in our neighborhood, and now that it's dark early, she says, I don't really want to walk there alone, so you're coming with me. I'm like, all right. 5 minutes on the elliptical. I'm like, are we done yet?
That's awesome.
I will say, did it at 6:30. College hoop on TV while elliptical. That makes the time go by pretty quickly.
It's not bad, man.
There's a lot of stoppage time in basketball.
Yeah. A ton.
Mark, for a few years, has been a big fan of the 6:30 FS1 college hoop start times. Big fan.
Nice.
Love those early starts.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
22 minutes. Still, Chris Perkins joins us from the Sun Sentinel to talk Dolphins. And hey, at least this week we get to talk to him after a win. But it's that day and time for Bud Elliott. He of, at least 4 jobs, 24/7 Sports, CBS, Cover 3, podcast, Nolecast. Are there any more W-2s or have we hit them all?
That's it.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Follow him on X, Bud Elliott 3, 2 L's, 2 T's, the number 3. All right. It's real simple. You join us on Wednesdays right after the playoff committee releases their poll. So we'll get your thoughts and go from there.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting poll that they released. Like, I mean, they are giving a lot of respect to the Big Ten, right? They are giving a lot of respect to the SEC and not dropping LSU out. I think was interesting, given that like LSU got dominated by Alabama. They jumped South Carolina in, which I thought was something that they needed to do. Missouri is interesting. Like you got to think that the loser of Missouri South Carolina this weekend drops out. Right now, Bama's resume is being propped up a little bit by Missouri still being ranked, obviously. But I think they're sending a couple messages. Like for Georgia, it does kind of look like, hey, a third loss here, a home loss to Tennessee, probably knocks you out. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Meanwhile, if you win, you're in. I think we have a battle brewing with Tennessee and Alabama because I don't think that the SEC has really proven that it needs 5 teams in this year. Now, Tennessee has the head-to-head with Alabama. I think Alabama has the much better, overall resume in terms of wins, but I could be wrong on that. Have you guys thought about this? Like, I think that's the battle brewing. If Tennessee loses this weekend to Georgia in, let's say, like reasonable fashion, who are they going to pick?
Well, Mark, what do you think the battle is?
I think the battle is between Indiana and a 5th SEC team. If Indiana gets their doors blown off against Ohio State, and that's 20 or more, I think that there is a big battle between Indiana and SEC 5, if you will, Bud.
I can see that too. A lot of this to me is going to depend who on Indiana's schedule makes a bowl. And that might seem laughable, but it's not, right? Like, is Nebraska going to make a bowl? Does Washington make a bowl? If Washington wins this weekend, obviously they make one. Nebraska, kind of the same thing. Michigan, I assume, will probably make a bowl unless it just absolutely throws up on itself against Northwestern. Right now, Indiana has not beaten a team which is currently bowl eligible. Now, they've beaten them down, but they don't have any wins over everybody who's actually bowl eligible at this point. But this weekend will be really important, in my opinion, for Indiana, because I think the committee likes round numbers and just easy to grasp concepts. And there's an easy to grasp concept you could latch on to if Indiana's schedule breaks the wrong way, which is, hey, they don't have wins over anybody, not only not ranked, but not anybody who's going to make a bowl.
Well, Penn State doesn't have a win over a ranked team. Texas doesn't have a win over a ranked team either.
Right. But there's a big difference, I think, between not having a win over a ranked team and not having a win over anybody who's bowl eligible.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Now, I mean, and listen, I'm of the belief that if Indiana loses by 17 or more, they're not going to be in the playoff. That's just my deep down belief. But, this team was coming off a horrendous season. Nobody blames them for scheduling FIU, Charlotte, and Western Illinois coming off of what they did. They had 24 guys get up and leave before Cignetti was even hired, for goodness sakes. They were picked 17th in an 18-team league. I mean, quite frankly, who's more overrated, Texas or Penn State? Seriously, forget Indiana for a second. Who has Texas beaten? Who has Penn State beaten?
It's fair. I think you have to look at the magnitude of the win, right? Like they beat down a West Virginia team, which would arguably be the best team Indiana's faced if they had faced them. Maybe not, right? But they have a winning record in the Big 12 at least.
Yeah, they're 5-4, right?
They dominated Illinois pretty well overall. They smoked a Washington team that's probably going to be bowl eligible. I get what you're saying though. Like they don't have a lot of highly ranked wins. Well, but they do have some dominant wins.
But obviously, if A&M beats Texas, okay, nobody's talking about this. But if a 10-2 Texas, who's not in the SEC title game because they lose to A&M, compare their resume to the other 10-2s that we're talking about right now could be left out.
I mean, you know who else needs to root for Michigan to win this weekend to beat Northwestern? Texas.
Yeah.
In the worst way. Like think about Texas's schedule here, guys. I mean, this is
through no fault of their own.
No,
they're in the SEC and they scheduled Michigan on the road, for goodness sakes.
I mean, I think their 10-2 is worse than Tennessee's 10-2 because it includes a home blowout loss.
Granted, it was to Georgia.
Yes, but I mean, still, like think about Vandy, what they have left. Vandy's bowl eligible, but like Vandy finishes at LSU and Tennessee. Like that's probably 0-2 for them. At that point, you got to think about Texas here. Like, what's their best win on the year?
That's what we're getting at.
It's probably like beating Michigan down at Michigan. But they finished at
a 6-6 Michigan team, by the way.
I mean, they finish at Arkansas, Kentucky, at A&M, as you noted. Did they have to win out to get in?
Bud, what happens?
Win on the regular season, obviously, not in the conference championship game.
Bud, what happens if Colorado wins out and BYU's only loss? A 12-1 BYU team
with some good wins, including SMU, right?
I think this is just cynical me. I think the committee would find a way to screw BYU.
I do too, and that would be a joke because they've got more quality wins than some of the teams that have 2 losses.
Completely. But like, will the committee recognize that? I'm not sure. I think Colorado probably will win the Big 12 right now. Like they're playing fairly well. I know they've gotten some breaks, but like also Shador's playing. This wasn't even his best game, but like Shador's playing pretty well.
He's the best quarterback in the country.
They should have 2 guys in New York.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think it probably
is. He is, Bud. Ward's more dynamic, but come on. He's the best quarterback in the country. And quite frankly, if he wasn't Deion's kid, he'd be a lock for New York in the Heisman. A lot.
Well, but he shares votes on that team with Hunter, and I think Hunter's going to get more of the votes because Hunter's had the highlight plays.
There's no doubt that. But I mean, I could see that whole Big 12 country voting for both of them on their ballots, if you know what I mean.
Totally, and probably should. I would think. But I don't know. That's an interesting one to me. I think Hunter will go to New York and maybe win it. But I don't know. Like they could still lose. I don't think they're going to lose to Utah this weekend because I just don't think Utah can score enough to beat them. But if Utah gets off the mat after that BYU loss, it could happen in theory.
By the way, listen, Miller and Moulton, big fans of people storming up to the podium and screaming and yelling. Big fans. Okay. If I was the Big 12 commissioner, though, I would have suspended the Utah AD. $40,000 fine. You said that they stole. He went out of his way and said they stole the game from us, and we hate being in the Big 12 right now because they think they have it against us. I mean, I'm sorry. You're the commissioner of the league. You gotta suspend him.
Right. I think he'd welcome a suspension.
I don't think you're wrong. Would add to his credibility in his base. because he stuck up for his team and got suspended for it.
100%.
Bud, is Boise anything but 12? Is there any way? I thought they've made a calculated assessment with these rankings of making sure that Boise's going to be the 12 seed.
Before a couple of things happened in the Big 12, I thought Boise had a real chance, but one extra thing has happened here. Colorado State keeps winning in the Mountain West. I think if Boise was going to go, they would probably need to face UNLV again and beat them again, because UNLV is, I think, the second best team in the Mountain West. The problem here is I don't think they're going to have the second best record in the Mountain West. So if Boise ends up facing Colorado State, that's not going to help their resume a whole lot, because Colorado State got stomped in the non-conference, right? So that's going to just look like some G5 patsy. I think that they're probably stuck at 12 unless we get some kind of insane Big 12 chaos here. I'm talking like Colorado loses another one, Arizona State loses, like everybody loses another one, and you're like a 3-loss Big 12 champion. Then maybe that could be a thing. But at this point, I think they're locked in at 12.
He's Bud Elliott, 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports, Cover 3 podcast, Nolecast. Follow him on X, Bud Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's, the number 3, at Bud Elliott 3. All right, some of the games this week. Let's go to the headliner. Listen, Nico practiced yesterday. All these reports that I'm seeing that he ain't going to play, he practiced yesterday.
If it's protocol, how do we define practiced? I think that's the question I would ask. Like he wore pads, he took contact. I mean, to the extent quarterbacks take contact, or did he participate in practice and was throwing the ball? Because you can throw the ball if you're in protocol, right?
Bud.
I think he's playing.
Let's get as real gets. Okay, the people who have to approve him, who do they work for? Who's paying their bills?
Yeah.
This is the biggest regular season game for Tennessee since 2007, when they had to beat Kentucky to go to the SEC championship game.
Or maybe since 2 years ago at Georgia.
Okay.
When they had already beaten Alabama, and they would have gone to the 4-teamer.
Well, okay. There you go. So, come on. Do we really think those doctors stay employed if they don't approve him playing? He wants to play. Heupel wants to play him. Do we really think he's not going to play?
I texted a guy last night, and I was like, hey, is there a real chance he doesn't play? And he goes, I'm pretty sure our guy's good. So, cool. So, I think he's playing. I think if he was not playing as late in the week as we are, this line would not be 9.5, 10. It would go to 14. We saw the backup against Alabama. It was not good. I mean, remember that hero ball pick he tried to, it was, yeah. They need Nico to win this game. They need Nico to play well to win this game. They probably need Nico's legs a little bit too to win this game. I think he's going to play. I think would he really have not stayed in the game if it was an opponent other than Mississippi State? I kind of lean that was truly precautionary.
How beatable? I mean, after what we saw at Georgia against Ole Miss, how do they rebound this week?
Well, I mean, they really can't seem to run the football. Beck is not operating very well from pockets which aren't clean. I think he's kind of seeing ghosts and guessing a little bit.
12 interceptions in 6 games.
I do think Georgia's pass rush might have been affected a little bit by the rain. I know that sounds crazy because Ole Miss's was not, but at times, a good pass rush can be kind of disrupted, by some conditions. I think Georgia, in some ways, was. If they get good field conditions this weekend, I assume they will get after Nico a pretty good bit. I mean, Georgia's going to want to play a low-scoring game. This is a couple games in a row that they're going to face some really creative, more wide-open spread-type offenses. You just faced Ole Miss. You just faced Texas. I mean, I'm sure Tennessee's watched the tape and is seeing some stuff. So I think Tennessee has a chance to win the game because if Ole Miss can get after that Georgia offensive line, I think Tennessee can too. Tennessee's got a damn good defensive line.
And they run similar fronts than Ole Miss does. Yeah. They run the same style that's given Georgia problems.
Correct. I think they have a real shot.
All right, we got a couple minutes. Quickly, how much of a shot you get Pitt at home against Clemson?
Kind of a shot because of how Clemson looked last week, honestly. But Pitt's offense for a couple weeks in a row has kind of been exposed. Holstein, we talked about it on the show like a month ago, like how many dropped interceptions he was throwing. They're not getting dropped as much now. Like they're just being caught and sometimes returned for touchdowns. But Narduzzi has played Clemson really well over his tenure. I think some of the stuff he does defensively, like Pitt never blitzes 5 guys. Like that's not a joke. They always blitz 6 or drop. And that's because they just think most college quarterbacks can't handle like identifying where the ball needs to go fast enough. And if they can, they kind of just tip their cap. They move on to the next play. For whatever reason, that seems to work pretty well against what Clemson does. Although we haven't seen Pitt play them under Garrett Riley. So I'm kind of using the old like Chad Morris and that Chad Morris tree of coaches logic there. That'll be interesting to watch this weekend to see if Clemson can solve that.
All right, 30 seconds. It's a game no one's talking about, but it will determine whether or not Army and Navy play twice or once. Tulane at Navy. Winner's going to play Army in the AAC title game.
Mensah for Tulane is a real quarterback and will be a major target this offseason if he enters the portal. I think Tulane will take care of Navy.
Tulane snuck into the rankings last night. I don't know if people noticed that.
If we get chaos, maybe.
All right. Bud Elliott. Oh, we're getting it. I mean, come on now. Colorado's gone from 4th to 2nd.
Dude.
Okay. And we're getting it in the Big 12. It's happening. It's happened in the ACC. It's happened in the Big 12. It's happening in the SEC. Oh, no. We're getting it.
I'm interested to see what Commissioner Yormark, if he says anything this week about like, hey, the Big 12 is going to deserve 2, because he might want to get in front of this narrative.
Yeah, no doubt. They deserve more teams ranked. He's Bud Elliott. All right. 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports, Cover 3 Podcast, Nolecast. Follow him on X, Bud Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's, and the number 3. Bud Elliott, as always, thanks. Chris Perkins, next. We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever, are steadily adding affiliates, yet we only have a few sponsors. And if that doesn't change, we can't continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or contact Mark on X at that Mark Miller or me at the David Moulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks lie peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
The world-famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination, with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world famous cigar bar.
This is Miller and Moulton.
To ambient and to Irish football and others, I do also think that there's not a job that's going to be available that interests Dion. There's nothing in Texas. Florida State and Florida aren't coming open this year. I mean, what's the job that Dion would leave what he's building in Colorado for? Now, I think it's something in Texas, and it would have to be something outside the Big 12. Yeah, Dion came out, for what it's worth, Dion came out recently and said he didn't see himself doing the NFL. I always thought Dion would be great in the NFL. Irish football, SMU's going to go, unless you think he's getting a job and that opens up. That's possible. That would change things. But Irish football, what's the job for Lashley to leave SMU for? I think he'll stay for a little while longer. I still think for health reasons he's going to have to leave. Fly Panda Fly, if he takes Colorado this year to the Big 12 championship game, he's already left a legacy.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the Diamond District bonus hour. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Hoping to catch up with Chris Perkins here coming up momentarily. Talk a little Dolphins. As it stands right now, we only talk to him after losses. Okay. The three of us don't know how to handle the discussion if they play pretty well and they win. serious question from me to you. If you're an NFL owner, would you hire Deion?
Yes.
Now, you and I are huge Deion guys. We were long before this year. We are Deion Sanders fans, personally, professionally. We like him a lot. So
he can relate to the athlete. That's been proven.
Okay.
They like to play for him.
Well,
he doesn't.
The young men have now shown. The 18 to 23-year-olds have shown they like to play for him. That's true.
But it's 18 to 23-year-olds that are getting paid. So it's a different 18 to 23-year-old than it was 5 years ago.
Okay.
They're professional light at worst. He doesn't want to be someone who messes with his coordinators. He brings in coordinators, lets them coach each side of the ball.
Yes, he does.
He's a head coach in the way Dan Campbell was a head coach. He lets his coordinators do their jobs and doesn't meddle. Well, I shouldn't say that. Probably meddles, but doesn't tell them how to do their jobs.
Now, quick sidebar. When this is at least 2 Falcons coaches ago, I think it's 3. And the Atlanta job opened up. And Deion was, I don't think, involved in coaching yet. He hadn't taken the HBC job. And Deion wanted an interview. And people were laughing. And he's like, guys, I know how this works. You don't think I can stand in front of a room and have the respect of the men in the room? I mean, he didn't say the next sentence, but the next sentence is, anybody in that room going to be a better player than I was? And he laid it out. He said, I hire an offense coordinator, a defense coordinator. I run the room. I handle the team. I do the interviews. You don't think I can do that? I mean, he laid it out in like a minute and a half. He was like, guys, I actually don't think this is that hard. I mean, Mark, you can argue being a college coach is harder than being an NFL head coach, especially if that's going to be your style. I mean, you got to be the GM in college. You got to pick all the groceries in college. Deion was talking about, give me the groceries you give me. I'll coach them. I'll manage them.
I think he'd do just fine.
Because we've got a few big Colorado fans in our Twitch chat room, and somebody asked them, hey, about Deion. And we are of the belief that if Deion leaves, he's going to leave for a job in Texas or Florida. And he's going to leave for a job outside the Big 12. Like, he's not going to leave for Baylor. He's not going to leave for TCU.
Not now. Not with what he's done at Colorado.
Right.
SMU would be really interesting if that were to open up.
And if you're thinking, well, why would Lashley leave? Well, maybe a job opens up in another conference and they offer more, et cetera. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. But if this next couple of weeks don't go well for LSU, how married do we think they are to Brian Kelly?
Imagine Deion at LSU.
Well, I was thinking LSU hires Lashley. Now the SMU job opens up. And that gets Deion back in the Dallas area. And he switches conferences. And SMU, as we have talked about, they got the money. I mean, that is the story also. There are quite a few stories that have been talked about this year in college football. But I mean, A, what SMU is doing on the field, and B, off the field, what they're doing in all their sports. Andy Enfield's killing it in recruiting. Well, what's the key part of recruiting now?
Money. You know what? No offense to Andy Enfield. I know you're friends with him, and I know Andy a little bit, and he's a super guy. He's killing it on the recruiting trail because he's got the most money.
Right. Absolutely.
He's paying the most.
Yeah.
I could kill it on the recruiting trail with SMU's money.
Right. That's the point, though. That, I mean, whatever Deion has in Colorado, he's going to have a hell of a lot more than that at SMU. By the way, no altitude, no state taxes, back where he's lived a good chunk of his life. But I happen to think right now there's not a job that Dion would leave for unless Lashley leaves because of the SMU success and that job opens up. But unless an NFL owner comes calling. And of course, since we talked about Texas and Florida, Mark, the two openings that we think are going to happen in Texas and Florida are the Cowboys and the Jags. And what if their owner comes calling? Just saying. Tell you what, we've thought about it. We're going to talk to Chris Perkins after a win. We checked out the contract. Okay, it pretty much had said we only talk after disappointing losses, but you know what? We're going to talk to him after a win. Chris with the Sun Sentinel, sun-sentinel.com. Follow him on X at Chris Perk, P-E-R-K. Where the hell did that pass rush come from?
That is a good question. I mean, my goodness, that 4 sacks, Chop Robinson getting in there, Quentin Bell getting in there, Javon Holland getting in there. I think Calais Campbell, had the other sack, but they generated a pass rush without having to frequently blitz. That was the amazing thing there. And so hats off, Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator, called an excellent game there. You keep the Rams out of the end zone, 5 field goals. And look, getting Zach Sealer back on defensive line, Cater Kohu at slot, and Javon Holland at safety helped. But the players did a great job executing a well-thought-out game plan.
Where did it come from? We've not seen the defense play this well all year long. Was it just a matter of the players back? Was it a matter of the call that Weaver had? I mean, where did this come from, Chris?
Yeah, you know what? I'm inclined to think it was just a good night with favorable matchups because, yeah, you're right. We've seen those personnel groupings from the Dolphins before. We've even seen the Jalen Phillips out there this season, and the pass rush wasn't as good without having to constantly blitz. So, yeah, I'm just thinking they just had a good night with favorable matchups and a good scheme because, look, Chop Robinson continues to progress, right? He had a good game against Buffalo and a better game against the Rams. Quentin Bell only played 14 snaps, but he had 1 sack. So you had some good contributions, and I'm going to say that Zach Sealer getting double teams probably opened up some stuff for some other guys.
The Dolphins claiming Terrell Dodson off waivers. Is that a need or is that, hey, he improves our 53-man and we can afford the $2 million?
Yeah, I think that's what it is, that you're getting a better player, so why not upgrade the roster? They didn't have a need here, really. If you look at the inside linebackers, they did just have a replacement there with Anthony Walker starting ahead of David Long, but you still have Jordan Brooks there starting and Duke Riley as a backup, and then the edge rushers are. They are what they are. You're hoping that Bradley Chubb comes back at some point this season, but that's not, you're at the 8-game mark and he hasn't had any training camp. But, this is just a move that makes you a better team. It doesn't necessarily serve a specific need.
All right. We know what the schedule looks like.
Yeah.
Can this team put together a 3-game winning streak?
They better, right? I mean, they better. The Rams, that was the tough part, and so now the Raiders come in at 2-7, absolute train wreck, right? Their quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, is out with, I can't remember, a thumb or a shoulder injury, whatever. They brought in Gardner Minshew last week. He wet the bed. They brought in Desmond Ridder, and they had just signed him from Arizona's practice squad maybe a week earlier or something like that. So, the Raiders are a disaster. You've got to pound this. Actually, I shouldn't say. You've got to beat this team. I don't know if the Dolphins are going to pound anybody this season. You've got to beat this team. Then the Patriots come in. They're 3-7. You've got to beat them, and that gives you momentum going to Green Bay on Thanksgiving night.
There was a sighting of the Dolphins wide receivers Monday night. It was it was a sketchy, a little Waddle here and then a little Tyreek here. But they were on the field. They were in the game. They touched the ball. They ran reverses for them as well. It's got to be progress, right?
It is progress, and it's going to be interesting. We talk about the defense getting those sacks, and maybe it was favorable matchups and players doing well with a well-thought-out game plan. I think the offensive performance was kind of like that, and it's weird to say that in a 23-point performance. But if you look at what they did, you're right. They got the ball to Waddle early, but these receivers combined for 4 carries of their 17 carries. Tyreek had 2 carries, Waddle had 1, Malik Washington had 1. They used the tight ends as fullbacks because Alec Ingold wasn't there. You only rushed for 67 yards, I think, or 70 yards, whatever it was. But they were able to adapt. And Odell Beckham Jr., where did that dude come from? He played a season-high 17 snaps, and 12 snaps was his previous season high. But we are seeing signs of progress. We got to watch this Austin Jackson injury at right tackle. He's out for the season. Knee injury. Kendall Lamb, the veteran, comes in. We'll see what happens with Rob Jones at left guard. He went out with a knee injury. Lester Cotton finished the game. Continuity was so important to that offensive line. It's been disrupted. Alec Ingold with the injury, the calf. We'll see what happens there. But yes, the receivers became a contributor to the offense in a different way.
They went 3 wide receiver, the most they have all year, the Dolphins. So pay attention to that going forward. A quick chat with Chris Perkins of the Sun Sentinel, sun-sentinel.com. Follow him on X at Chris Perk, P-E-R-K. Enjoy the home game, and hopefully we can actually talk with a winning streak.
Yeah, I hope so. And I had some building politics today. Our condo is just... Yeah, you guys know what's going on with Florida condos. So, I got caught up in some stuff. I
understand.
Late,
no.
but, yeah.
Hey, I live in a condo. We had our inspection yesterday. I thought I was moving yesterday. So I get it, Chris. I get it. Chris Perkins joining us on Miller and Moulton.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors. And if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller & Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller & Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
The world-famous cigar bar started as a neighborhood place in downtown Fort Myers, and now it's a brand, a destination with 4 locations. The original place, Henry Street, Fort Myers, Gulf Coast Town Center, on Southeast 47th Terrace off the Cape Coral Parkway, and the Lounge on West 1st Street in Fort Myers. A place to go, whether you just need a relaxing drink and a smoke after a tough day at work, or a place to go celebrate. From relaxation to celebration, the world-famous cigar bar.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Pius, apparently he wasn't the only one. There was a report out yesterday that half the veterans on offense went to Eberflus and wanted Caleb benched.
Which is fascinating, too, because I heard it was their leadership council, of which Williams is a part of. They've got that,
right?
Those leadership groups. He's on it.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
My apologies.
I don't think you have to apologize for sneezing unless you sneeze on somebody. And since we're in different rooms, I'm good.
Okay. Good deal. Oh, boy. Oh, man.
What? Anything?
No, it's my wife.
Oh, man.
Good news. She doesn't need a manipulation for a second time on her right knee. Bad news is they think her left knee is rapidly moving towards being replaced.
Let's buy a break.
We're just going to meet our health care deductibles for the rest of our life.
By the end of January each year, too.
I know. Golly. Tonight, FGCU St. Bonaventure.
And if I didn't have soccer, I'd go. I'll watch the second half on Plus.
Welcome to the bonus hour, brought to you by Jason and Todd at the Diamond District. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes after the hour. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day one. Some final thoughts, a pick or two, all coming up. Hey, we've got action tonight, 3 games. Remember, we're still doing this 55 consecutive days of football. We got 2 more weeks of it. Football every day until the night before Thanksgiving. Then, of course, we have a triple header on Thanksgiving.
And a game on Black Friday.
So there's only a limited amount of time you really have to spend with your family. So I came home last night around 11 o'clock from the flights from LA. And, everybody's asleep. But you know how when they tell you they've done something while you were gone, but then you actually come and you see it? Yeah, well, Christmas is up.
What?
Mark.
Are you kidding me?
Mark, I can't believe you're reacting this way. You obviously don't know who you're talking to and the person I'm married to. And now that there's a grandchild involved, I mean, Mark, please. The only reason that it didn't happen a week earlier was because of me and my health situation. They would have done it the week before, but they always wait until I leave. What can I do about it?
Nothing.
Also, Christmas is in our storage area. I can't physically, that's my job.
Right.
Go get Christmas is what I'm told. I bring everything in, I put it in the room. Right. Then leave.
But now there's a son-in-law. He can get into the storage.
But there's no way I'm letting anybody get into the storage while I'm still in the house. And the first weekend of November, I was still in the house. Plus, they were out of town. They were at a wedding and what have you. So, Mark, it would have happened, Saturday. Was Saturday what, the 2nd? Oh, Christmas would have been Saturday, November 2nd, if there wasn't a wedding and me being in the house and not allowing anyone to bring Christmas in while I was still on the property. But I left the property on Friday the 8th. And my understanding was that Christmas was up pretty much by the time that I landed in Indianapolis.
Here's my question for you. Since the tree and all the decorations were up, and I don't know how many lights you have in the house, but I know there are lights on the tree.
Mm-hmm.
When you came home, and I don't know if you turn the lights out, someone's in charge of turning the lights out of the tree every night, but were the lights still on the tree when you walked in the door?
They were not. Which I was a little surprised about.
I am a little surprised by that too. If I was your wife, I would have probably had it lit and said, "Hey, big guy, it's Christmas."
Well, but it greeted me when I came around the corner and I had my luggage, and she's got more stuff than ever before on our door and in front of our doorway. And I was standing right there, and I'm exhausted. It was a long day, obviously. And it's been, a long 5 days. I was active. I hadn't been active for 3-4 weeks. And I'm really tired. And yet, Mark, for that moment, I took a look, figuring if this is what it looks outside, I can only imagine what it looks like inside. And I literally thought at 11 o'clock last night, do I have any place else to go? Because I had the radio equipment with me. And I'm like, if I go to a hotel room, I'll make up something. Too tired, staying near the airport, whatever. But for a minute there, I actually thought about, should I just go rent a room? Can I really handle this? I've been traveling all damn day. I got to come home on November, what was yesterday, the 12th? November 12th to Christmas. Now, she had told me she'd done it. She'd even sent me a picture of the tree. And, of course, what am I going to say? That's appalling. Looks nice. Son of a...
What happened to Thanksgiving?
Oh, well, that's always the first text. What happened to Thanksgiving? But see, we're not
forgotten holiday. They just skip right over it. It's a great holiday. We eat. We watch football. We are not required to buy gifts for anyone.
No.
The only thing you have to endure is your family for a few hours. And you really don't have to do that because there's enough football on television that you can ignore your family for most of the day.
Well, the other thing is you have to invite the family. Although that's not true. Last year, there were 14 people at our place. We didn't invite any of them. Literally didn't invite any of them. This year, however, they're all back to their normal thing. So I'm not going to be around. My wife and mother-in-law, that's it. That's all I got.
I am even more thankful for my wife today because she embraces Thanksgiving. Our house is ready for Thanksgiving. There's still a couple of pumpkins up because that's a fall decoration. There are a couple little thankful signs on the wall. We are ready for Thanksgiving. And the daughter has bought into the importance of Thanksgiving before you get into Christmas.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Her best friend is a Christmas freak. And she already has her tree up and she's got this and that and the other. And my daughter was telling me about it. And I'm like, you don't want that up. No, she's like, we got Thanksgiving first, Dad.
Yes. That's you guys are doing a hell of a job as parents.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hell of a job. So, yeah. And of course, earlier and earlier. I mean, because remember, we didn't even buy Halloween candy and nobody came by and knocked on the door either. So I don't know how long we're going to keep celebrating Halloween, although with a grandkid, I'd like to think we're at least going to keep celebrating that. But so
how long will the Christmas decorations stay up?
Well, that's the other thing. I then immediately start saying on December 26th, everything has to come down. And I look right at them and go, they've been up for over 50 days. How much longer do we need to do this? Okay. The kid's married, has her own kid. How much longer do we need to do this? It usually stays up till after the weekend after the first of the year.
And once again, you're working, so you've got no say-so in this.
I'm done. Yep. I'm doing Monday Night Football on the 30th, Sun Bowl on the 31st. I fly home the afternoon of New Year's Day. And I'll fly home to, hey, you know what we have to do before you leave town? You got to take down Christmas. You got to put Christmas away. I didn't want to get it out in the first place.
David, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
Oh, it is.
So Christmas is up at the Moulton house. That's
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's up, baby. It's up.
I have no problem doing it Thanksgiving weekend. In fact, I prefer to do it Thanksgiving weekend. Get the bird out of the way, get the tree up.
Do you do it on Black Friday or do you wait till the weekend?
Probably will wait till Saturday or Sunday.
Wow, it's a lot of football involved that Saturday. It's a big college football day.
It'll be a whole weekend thing. We take our time. But good to know that Christmas is up in the Moulton house as early, November 10th, November 9th?
And it was late. It was late. It would have been up the weekend before. And how many of you had wives, girlfriends, what have you, kids, how many of you it went up that weekend of November 2nd and 3rd? Come on, admit it. How many of you? And how many of you is it already up? Is it already Christmas? Oh, man.
Texter says, came home from work and wife had the Christmas music playing. I said, really? And she said, it makes me happy. I said, that works for me.
Exactly. She was taking me to the hospital for another appointment. What did she have on in the car? Holly. That's the Sirius XM Christmas channel for those that don't have it. Holly. They have 2 channels. She found Holly right away.
Oh, I thought it was the redhead from Barker's Beauties back in the day.
That makes me happy. Holly makes her happy. I lost the Billy Joel channel, but I have Holly. Great. Fantastic.
Well, if it comes between Christmas music and Allentown, I'll take Christmas music every single time. The good, the bad, and the ugly today was a day when what's on tap. That's all next. Miller and Moulton.
That's a cheap
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit capecops.com. That's capecops.com.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
When you enter the Diamond District, you will quickly discover what makes Jason and Todd so unique to Southwest Florida. Within the walls of the Diamond District, you'll find many of America's top jewelry designers who have chosen the Diamond District as their authorized representative in Southwest Florida. Takori, Fana, A. Jaffe, Veragio, Christopher Designs, Shy Creations, Henri Dossi, all names synonymous with excellence, and all proudly showcased at the Diamond District.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You know what I don't need? And I know you're probably the same way, David, is more patient portals.
Oh my God. I have 3 different teams of people working on me. I have 11 different people I can get an email from or a message from. I'm overwhelmed. I got a phone call yesterday. I've been really nice to everybody, much nicer than I normally am. This lady called me about a scheduling thing, and I said, it's already scheduled. And I went through the day and time, what have you. I go, I already have it scheduled. And she goes, okay, I'm just making sure. I go, okay, type this in your computer right now. No more making sure. No more confirming. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I got your back on this one. In fact, you might have to tell me to calm down.
And I got to find a new primary care guy because mine up and quit.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah. Went to work at the VA hospital. Can't really, get mad at the guy, but it sucks.
Not only that, while I was gone, she wrote another check to the church. Son of a... Golly. Snuck that one in.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour, 16 till we're done talking. So tomorrow's a Thursday. We'll have Roy Cummings. We'll have South Florida head coach Alex Golish.
Doc Roto.
Answering all your fantasy questions. And
JP
JP
Shadrick.
Shadrick. He should be in a great mood. I mean, the Jags are such a fun topic of conversation these days.
And he's not doing college football games anymore this year, so we have to talk about the Jags.
Right. And he's not doing Westwood 1 for another month. Right. So that's all he's got on his plate. Yeah, he'll be miserable. I love JP miserable, though. I do. He's even more sarcastic than normal.
It's that time again, nearing the end, but not quite there yet. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
We start today in 1789, when good old Benjamin Franklin writes, "In this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes." Big Ben chimes for the first time today in 1856. The Baltimore Orioles enter baseball's American League today in 1900. They're now the New York Yankees.
Interesting.
Yes. Today in 1982, a couple of things happened. One, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial opened in Washington, D.C., with the names of over 58,000 U.S. soldiers killed or missing in the Vietnam War. And also on a sports front today in 82 was the Mancini-Duke Koo Kim fight.
Oh, my goodness, when he killed him.
Wins in the 14th by TKO. Kim collapses and falls into a coma, would die 4 days later. The WBC would shorten title bouts to 12 rounds. The WBA and WO would follow 6 years later, and the IBF would not do it until 1989.
Because when Tyson unified the heavyweight title, Tony Tucker had the IBF title. And Tyson had to fight him to unify it. And it went 15 rounds. It went the full, decision. And it was still 15 rounds because I think it was like 87 when he was able to unify the title. That fight, by the way, on a Saturday afternoon on CBS. That's how big boxing was.
David, you talked about this the other day, but it happened today in 87. Sonny and Cher performed together for the final time, singing "I Got You, Babe" on Late Night with David Letterman.
He's going to interview Caitlin Clark, by the way. He's got this series that he does for his alma mater at Ball State. I don't know if it's a monthly interview thing, but he's gotten a few, people of note who've agreed to come to Ball State and sit down and do an interview with him. She, of course, plays now for Indiana Fever, and then she said yes to Letterman sitting down doing an interview.
Today in 92, Riddick Bowe takes down Holyfield in the first of their 3 meetings.
Tell me that's not the most underrated trilogy in boxing. For as much as the Gotti Ward trilogy, for as much attention as it got, and it deserved, that is the most underrated heavyweight trilogy of all time.
Today in 99, Lennox Lewis beats Holyfield in 12 to become the heavyweight champion of the world. And in 2002, Eminem releases Lose Yourself on the soundtrack of 8 Mile, first rap song to win an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Robert Louis Stevenson, Buck O'Neill, Gary Marshall, Mel Stoudemire would have all celebrated birthdays today. Gilbert Perrault is 74. Whoopi Goldberg, 69. Vinny Testaverde, 61. And Jimmy Kimmel is 57. What did I miss, David?
Do we think Testaverde could still show up and win a game on Sunday? I mean, not the long-term answer or anything, but do we think he still, because what was he, in his early 40s when Carolina called him on a Wednesday and said, hey, think you could play Sunday? Well, yeah, let me finish breakfast. I'll head to the airport. Listen, this is showing our age, and it's happened many times since. But it was 45 years ago today that Darryl Dawkins broke his first backboard. This was before Jerome Lane and send it in, big fella.
Dawkins broke a few backboards.
He did. But the first time he did it, I mean, it freaked us out.
Yes.
Then Shaq, like 15 years later, brought down an entire backboard and stanchion with a dunk. 4 years ago today, Kim Ang named first female general manager in the major sports. Worked out really well, so they got rid of her.
Time to see life a little bit differently. Here's Mark Miller with the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
I start today with a follow-up. The monkeys that escaped from the medical research facility in South Carolina.
Right.
2 more have been returned. Only 11 of the 43 monkeys that escaped last week now remain outside the facility.
At large?
There are 11 monkeys at large. For the good, we'll go right to Fort Myers, where FWC was able to take a manatee calf into care, saving it, and sending the manatee to SeaWorld, where it will be rehabilitated. For the bad, we go to South America, where a man tried to bring cigarettes into Argentina from Paraguay. He did so by wearing a wetsuit and disguising himself as a water plant. Police apprehended him at the scene. Finally, the ugly. We go to England, where a woman was convinced that she was flying home with just cash that 2 men had given her in 2 suitcases. It was not cash. It was 15 million pounds worth of Peruvian marching powder. She's now facing 60 years behind bars. The 28-year-old insists that she's innocent and was forced to carry the bags. That, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, Wednesday, November the 13th, 2024. The good, the bad, and the ugly brought to you by the Cape Coral Police Department. Go to capecops.com. Still a $10,000 sign-on bonus for new officers. So if you know someone looking to be a police officer, tell them to go to capecops.com.
So you got 5 games in the NHL tonight. Neither the Panthers or Lightning are in action. It's a Wednesday night, so that means it's a Turner hockey doubleheader night. And they, of course, go with the old standbys. Detroit and Pittsburgh early. LA Kings and Colorado Avalanche late.
Showing the Wings in Pittsburgh is...
You mean as opposed to the Maple Leafs and the Capitals?
Yeah.
Who are both playing really well, and Ovechkin for 2 weeks has been a goal a game guy?
And look, Crosby's still amazing.
He is.
But there are so many young stars in the game. In fact, the commercial that they do with the Gen Zs not working with all the players, showing them working hard, and then it ends with Crosby going, kids these days, is a fantastic promo spot.
So NBA, they got a bunch of games tonight. They got like 11 of them. Orlando, second of back-to-backs, but they're home for both. They host the Pacers. The ESPN double dip. New Orleans at Oklahoma City early. New Orleans, by the way, out 6 players of what would be their 8 or 9 man rotation. And they've lost like 5 in a row because of it. Thunder are 9-2. Tied for the best record out west. The late game, Memphis and the Lakers. I'll tell you what. I'll bet you that game's got a little something to it because of what Ja Morant said last week. Lakers came to Memphis. Grizzlies beat them. Morant, after the game, said, I hate the Lakers.
I wish more players would say that. Need some rivalries in that sport. There aren't a lot.
And that's what he said. He said they knocked us out of the playoffs a couple of years ago. I hate them. Okay, good. Good. Big fan of that. Okay, college football, you need a distraction.
We've got Maction.
Yes, we do. Tonight, 0-9 Kent State, a mere 30-point underdog at Miami of Ohio, 7 o'clock ESPNU. Wow. 30-point spread in a MAC game. Damn.
I think I'd lay it.
Akron's at Northern Illinois, 7 o'clock, CBS Sports Network. Northern Illinois, a 15-point favorite. The highlight game, though, is 7 o'clock ESPN2, Eastern Michigan and Ohio. Ohio, an 11.5-point favorite. Ohio, I believe I have this right. Yeah, with a win would tie Bowling Green for first place in the MAC. If Miami of Ohio beats 0-9 Kent State, they too are also tied for first in the MAC.
And David, I know we're still on in Jacksonville, but I'm going to get a little local on you. FGCU and St. Bonaventure, FGCU's first home game. The Bonnies are a 1.5-point favorite.
I know they are. They started off 2-0. FGCU with 2 bye games on the road. They've lost both of them. I'll say this. I mean, if you're into college hoop at all, go to the game. You can walk up and buy tickets.
Absolutely.
St. Bonaventure. This, by the way, the completion of a home and home when FGCU in year 1 went to Olean, New York and won.
We're going to get Woj in the house?
I don't know if he travels with them. I don't know if the general manager's job of a college basketball program involves traveling or not. That's a newly created position in the sport. I think like you can have a GM. I was talking to a coach the other day about it. I go, so what's, and they go, well, you can have a GM that basically you put in charge of getting the players. You can make that position whatever you want. I think Woj's job is the money. I think it's Woj's job to raise the NIL money so that they can remain an upper echelon A10 program. Do you know how much money he walked away from? I mean, Woj was making like $7 million.
And could have done it for a long time.
Absolutely could have. No, I mean, you don't have much of a life for most
you don't have
of
a
the
life,
year.
period.
No, I mean, you take the phone with you into the shower. But, I mean, what do we think he's making as the general manager in St. Bonaventure? We think you make it $250,000? I don't.
$1.50.
Yeah, I mean, whew.
So a couple of ranked teams play college hoop tonight. No big matches to speak of, really, in college hoop. But FGCU and the Bonnies, a good one locally here if you want to see some college ball tonight.
That is.
And for FGCU, they need to win some of these games. I know only the conference matters, but it would be nice to get a nice non-conference win at home to try to build a little momentum here in the area. So we shall see tonight. I'd go, but soccer practice calls, David.
No, I understand.
Be close enough to hear it from soccer practice. But I'll be sitting in my folding chair watching my U12 girls probably scrimmage a U11 boys team. That's what we do most Wednesday nights.
Will you be able to say watch it on your phone, ESPN Plus?
I will be watching it on my phone.
Okay.
Then I'll get grief from my daughter on the ride home going, you weren't even watching. You were on your phone.
And you could say that's right, because FGCU St. Bonaventure was a lot more entertaining than practice. I drive you, I feed you, I house you. I have to pay attention also?
It's a requirement in my household, David. That's what I have figured out.
Wow.
He knows when dad's on the phone during practice, whether it's gymnastics or soccer. I have been called out numerous times.
See, I
it hasn't stopped me yet, but I've been called out numerous times.
I think you should threaten to become that parent. You want me to pay attention? I'm going to be heard. You sure you want that? Miller and Moulton. We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever, are steadily adding affiliates, yet we only have a few sponsors. And if that doesn't change, we can't continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or contact Mark on X at @MarkMiller or me at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now.
American Paint Supplies, for nearly 30 years, is your one-stop shop for all your coating needs. If you are a designer, a contractor, a professional painter, or a weekend warrior, American Paint Supplies is the place where experts go to get expert solutions. At 6100 Shirley Street in Naples off of Pine Ridge, American Paint Supplies delivers the best solutions with the best products with the best support. Meet Gene and his team today at American Paint Supplies. Call 239-566-2700. That's 566-2700 or online at AmericanPaintSupplies.net. The Cape Coral Police Department is growing. They are currently looking for police officers and are offering a $10,000 signing bonus to newly hired officers. If you desire a career in law enforcement, or if you are already in law enforcement and thinking about making a move to a better agency, think Cape Coral Police Department. If you're looking for a police department that is committed to excellence, that invests in the highest level of training, state-of-the-art equipment, and some of the highest compensation in all of Southwest Florida, then the Cape Coral Police Department is for you. Visit CapeCops.com. That's CapeCops.com.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floormeisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floormeisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit SleepTreatmentDirect.com. That's SleepTreatmentDirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.